Oh shit. Ooh. Hello, I'm also here. Oh shit. Oh shit. Ooh. Ooh. Hello, I'm also here. Oh shit. Hang on. Oh shit. I mean, you do whatever you're doing. Ooh. Just sorting myself out. Ooh. Good. I've never watched a YouTube live stream. I've never been involved in a YouTube live stream. Hello, I am Henchbrain666. That is my legal name, and no one can tell you anything different. Okay. Might be talking to ourselves. Okay. Might be talking to ourselves. Oh, what happened there? Well, I mean, both you and I think it's fair to say, are, shall we say, followers of the internet critic Smudboy. I'm certainly being charitable in my description of Smud there, I think. But yeah, I think basically we're friends IRL, if such a thing is believable, and we're both fascinated by Smud and his sort of caliber of criticism, I suppose. And in my kind of internet browsing, I discovered that Smud had written a book. And this was news to Sheep, I think. And I started to read the book and realised it was fucking hilarious. So, I've already swore on the stream. Is that acceptable?
No, it's.
Oh dear.
Yeah, so essentially, internet critic extraordinaire Smudboy has written a book inviting people to, basically telling people how to write fiction. So we thought we'd have a look at it because obviously I'm a film student.
I was a film student once.
Yeah, fair enough. Oh, hang on. Oh, for God's sake! Apparently, they can only hear one of us. What's going on? Why? Hello? Can people hear me? Oh, it's going well.
Can people hear me?
I think they can.
Yes. Jason here seems to be responding to things I'm saying.
Okay, so it might be me that's the problem. Hello?
Come on, you're supposed to be Channel Daddy.
Okay, right. Okay, so I guess... Okay, so they can hear us both. Brilliant. Okay, so... Let's...
Okay, good. That's a good start. Yeah.
I think I messed up my audio on my end because I forgot to set it up on Streamlabs. I'm not very good at streaming, as you may have guessed. But
Finlay Marshall coming in there with "I can hear both of yous" in the old Scottish dialect there. I always like it when people type in the the Scottish dialect. Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, so basically we're both film students. You are, I guess, an independent filmmaker, and I sort of like...
Yeah, that's a charitable way of putting it. I've certainly produced films in the past, and I studied screenwriting, I should say. Like, that was my focus, which is why I'm always fascinated by these conversations.
Yeah, fair enough. And yeah, so I guess what we're interested in is seeing how to write media from someone who's a self-described expert. So before we begin, we should probably sort of go over who Smudboy is. So I'll just sort of give a bit of context. So Smudboy is a YouTuber. I'll just bring in his channel here. This is Smudboy here. I don't know if you're looking at the stream, but you can see it here. You can see you can probably see he's sort of one of the fandom menace kind of critics. Sorry, that one's a bit loud. Fandom menace sort of critics who talks exclusively about Star Wars and women being in media and things like that. So one of his videos 2 days ago is called "Crazy Feminist Doesn't Understand the Mandalorian Female Armor." Obviously talking about Anita Sarkeesian, the most relevant person in the year of our Lord 2020. He did.
Wow.
He did.
Can I just say, I didn't think there was anyone who was like less relevant than Anita Sarkeesian by 2020, but seems like Smud is less. You know, he's coming up with some cold takes there.
Yeah, so he gained quite a lot of popularity, I guess you could say, or at least he got a lot of views during the recent Last of Us 2 stuff, because there was a buff woman in it. So I'm just gonna do something on stream here, and I did this the other day, and it's very funny. So if you just sort of search Last of Us on Smudboy's channel, and then you just sort of scroll down, it appears that he's made... I counted the other day, and I think there's around 30, but possibly more, of just constant content about how he doesn't like The Last of Us 2 because women, and just utter nonsense. Like, he's done some podcasts about it. Troy Baker's response to The Last of Us 2 leaks. There's talking about a petition to change the storyline. So I haven't played The Last of Us 2, but I do think it's very funny that an adult man has spent hours and hours of his time whining on the internet about...
To be clear here, as in my research, I found that unless this has changed recently, Smud also hasn't played The Last of Us 2.
I didn't know that. That's brilliant.
Yeah, there's a bit where someone on his Twitter was like, basically going, if you don't like it, don't play it. And he went, well, I've not played it. So, I mean, if I'm wrong about that, Smudboy, come in the chat. I don't know, come in the chat.
Oh, brilliant. Right, okay, so this video is probably his most infamous. So I don't know if like many leftists will know of Smudboy, but if they do, they'll probably know him from this exchange. Hang on, I'll just bring it up here. So this is Smudboy here. This is the left-wing YouTuber Curio, who goes by Sophie on Twitter. Apparently, they made a video about Last of Us 2, and Smudboy responded, Abby's arms are unrealistic based on 1, her actual exercise routine in game, she doesn't focus on her arms, and 2, food is rationed. Various athletes on Reddit have explained this whole situation, blah blah, about the about her apparently not having the correct arms. He then went on to take a screenshot from a part of the game, going over her exercise routine and getting mad that apparently it's not realistic in a game in which you go around murdering zombies.
Yeah, mushroom zombies, to be precise.
Mushroom zombies, I apologise, yeah.
Yeah.
And you made a whole video about it, which... Yeah, so he's written a book after all this criticism of other people, especially Star Wars and other video games. He's written a book about how we should write how we should write fiction. And I think we should sort of discuss that, really, because
yes, I just want to ask: are people in the chat familiar with like Mauler and stuff like that? We'll get a response in a minute.
Okay, hang on, I'll just bring up the chat here. Yeah, so but yes, basically, Smudboy and occasionally Literature Devil do a podcast that's basically just a rip off EFAP. Which is this Smudcast thing that's here. Yeah, so that's essentially who Smudboy is. Smudboy is sort of like Mauler, but somehow less competent.
Yeah, he's like Mauler without the charm.
Yeah, that's I'd say that's quite accurate. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we decided that we'd help Smudboy out a little bit because well, it was accidental, but we actually ended up both buying a copy of his book. Because
so something like £16 sterling has been spent on this book between us.
Yes. Yeah, so we thought we'd do that because it looks like Smudboy isn't doing too well, because just going by his channel, he's got 21.6 thousand subscribers, but his videos get sort of not very many views at all. Very occasionally he'll have one blow up because it'll get picked up by the algorithm, but mostly Smudboy in his own time tries desperately hard and fails pretty spectacularly to be a sort of Geeks and Gamers the Quartering clone, but doesn't do very well at it, basically.
Yeah, I think that's fair. He's kind of, I suppose he's kind of that middle ground between Geeks and Gamers and Mauler. Yeah, I think he occupies that space, or at least that's the market he's trying to plug. You know, I think
it's quite sad, really, because like if you go like on his homepage and like have a look at some of the series he's done, he's actually done some like what looks like quite good sort of video essays about like going into plot analysis of different video games, but it seems like he stopped doing that several years ago, and now he's just sort of doing the whole getting mad when a feminist does something online. Yeah,
and for some time he was more what's the word I'm looking for? He produced more content about The Last Jedi than I think any other human that's ever lived. You know, like he's even more so than EFAP and the Mauler lot. Like that has been his racket for a bit. Before The Last of Us 2 came out, it was all The Last Jedi, and then before that, it was kind of Gamergate talking points, right? It was
yes. I mean, well, one of the reasons we're doing this is that you're more of a Smudboy aficionado, shall we say, than I am.
I'm a borderline fan. I realise this. I've seen pretty much everything. Well, I wouldn't say I've seen everything he's put out on YouTube. I've seen most of the Smudcasts, though. I mean, frankly, we could do like a whole stream just on the Smudcasts, because each individual Smudcast episode is a minefield of bullshit, basically.
Yeah, so like for people who don't know, I actually was on a Smudcast. Or I was on it before it was called Smudcast. I think I was like the first. When I did a video about Literature Devil ages ago, which has since been taken down, I think.
I couldn't find the stream that you were beefing on, but I've seen it before, because I remember watching it and going, "Oh, there's sheep."
Yeah, so they haven't. Yeah, so I think for a number of reasons, possibly because I received a ton of harassment after that, and maybe they felt bad, or potentially it could be that it was quite pathetic, because at the time I had 500 YouTube subscribers and they were sort of going after me. But either way, I don't harbour any ill will towards them, but that's just a bit of...
I will say, with regard to that, I don't know what Smud's opinion is on his fans kind of going after people that they cover. I know Lit Devil has expressed in the past, basically, it's the internet, get over it. So I don't know if there's disagreement between the two of them on that score. But as far as I'm aware, Smud has never been vocal about being like, it's the internet, you get harassed, just deal with it, you know? So that's probably worth saying up front. And like, I would also say, since this is the section of the stream where we're being as generous to Smudboy as we're going to be, I will say, I'm going to give this guy props for writing his manifesto down, because I'm also a follower of the ways of Mauler, as you know.
Yeah, I do know, yes.
Yeah, those guys, they talk a big game, but where's your book, Mauler? Where's your book? You know?
Yeah.
I want to know the law according to Mauler.
Yeah, see, this is the thing, is that, like, most of the people who say... Well, I guess this is something we've discussed quite a lot, just like in person, is that like if you're saying that you know how to make the perfect work of art, then why don't you? Like if you can objectively criticize something, then surely you could reverse engineer that to make the perfect movie or like the perfect book or something like that. But none of them actually have, and even fewer of them have actually written down like what they think would make a good book or a good story.
It's almost as though their supposedly objective criticism or their supposedly objective criteria for what makes a good film isn't actually objective. Which, if people, I was going to say we were going to link to this. If people want to know even more than we're going to go into about Smudboy's philosophy, he actually did a really good stream with Jack Saint before things went very sour between those two camps.
Let's see if I can find it. What's
but to summarize, I cannot remember, I'm afraid. I believe it's called something to the effect of A Conversation with Smudboy, and I don't know if Jack still has it on his channel at this point, because I know that things kind of went sour between them pretty soon after.
Oh, yeah, no, I think I found it. Okay. I'll just put it in.
It's a long one, and... yes, they really do hash it out. And but the reason I bring it up is Jack Saint kind of floats the notion that what Smudboy, Mauler et al. Are really saying is when they say, oh, this is an objectively good film, what they're talking about is like normative standards rather than objective ones. So they're saying like, this is the criteria that most people would agree makes a serviceable work of art, a serviceable story, right? But the issue is when you frame it as this is objectively good, this is objectively bad, that's a slightly different thing. You're kind of saying there's one right way of doing things. Like, obviously, if we're going to get into this as we read the book, but obviously if you're talking about like genre pieces, say murder mysteries, for example, we all sort of know the elements that you would want for a murder mystery. You want a murder victim, you want several suspects, you want a brilliant detective who's going to piece it all together in such a way that the audience could have a decent guess at what the ending's going to be themselves. Or at least that is the normative standard of a murder mystery, right? We can all agree with that. That's kind of the nuts and bolts Agatha Christie style version of it, right? But then you can also have a work of art like, say, Rian Johnson's Knives Out, which I would recommend to the chat if they've not seen it, which a brilliant kind of who's going to weaponizes your understanding of those tropes against you to create a really unexpected piece of art. Yeah. Now, that doesn't make that objectively bad or wrong, but that does make it, slightly different. I'm finding it hard to articulate exactly what I mean, but this is my issue with it. It's all well and good to say that there are standards and tropes that we generally adhere to make art that is considered accessible to most people or considered compelling to most people.
Yeah.
But to say that there's an objective way of doing it is a nonsense, really. And as we'll see as we get into Smud's book, he kind of talks about like, and he also talks in this chat with Jack Saint, he kind of talks about like, there are different objective standards depending on genre, which doesn't make any sense because that's not an objective standard then, is it? Because what if you combine two genres? Like, for example, like the example I brought up to you when we're talking about this personally is like, what about horror comedy, right?
Yeah.
Because surely if you have an objective standard for comedy and an objective standard for horror, those two things ought to be in opposition because one is supposed to make you feel good and laugh, and one of you is supposed to make you feel tense and scared, right?
Yeah.
So if those two objective standards collide, do we have an objectively bad work of art? And these are just some of the questions we're going to try and get to the bottom of with Smud's book. And if I sound smugly amused about Smud's book, it's because I've read most of it and Sheep hasn't.
Yeah, so this is the thing, is that there's sort of the idea was that you were going to read the book, and then sort of I would, along with the audience, kind of learn what it was about.
Yes. And I have read most of it, but self-care is not finishing Smudboy's book, quite frankly.
Brilliant. That's amazing. So so just one thing that I did want to go over. I was going to sort of rag on him because he's got some like really cringe stuff on his Patreon. Actually, you know what? I'll just do that. So I just wanted to do this just because I just wanted to point out that for $2 a month, you can get access to private podcasts. Talk to him about ideas on new videos to make, or schedule a game of LOL together.
A game of LOL?
Yes.
What is that?
League of Legends.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've had sex in the last 2 years, so I don't know what that is.
That's fair. Yeah, I thought that was just a weird. Like, I genuinely didn't think people played League of Legends anymore. Anyway, that was just a little thing. There was one more thing I wanted to bring attention.
Sorry, is that one of his Patreon perks that you can play League of Legends with him?
Yeah. Hang on, I'll bring it back up. Oh no, I can't bring it back. It was $2 a month.
Right.
And you can play League of Legends, and you can, if you want, you can talk to him about what video he should make next.
Okay. That's quite a lot of power to give someone for just $2, though, recommending what the next video should be.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't think he has to actually do it. So it's just sort of basically what he's saying is, you can tell me what you think I should do, where his audience is basically going to say, talk about Star Wars or Last of Us 2 or cry about feminism on the internet.
Yes. Cry about Anita Sarkeesian like it's 2015.
Exactly. So one more thing, so this is the trailer for his book. It's like 3 minutes long. I don't think we really want to watch it on stream. You can if you want. It's on his channel. But I did want to just point out, you pointed this out to me recently, which is, hang on, if you go to the someone actually says, someone called Papa G asks him, have you actually written any short stories or anything? Because presumably you would have thought that if you'd written a book on how to write stories, that you are yourself a storyteller or some kind of expert in this area. To which Smudboy does respond, of course, and then the person he's responding to says, is it possible to have a link to one or two? And then he just doesn't respond at all. Now, we did actually look very, very hard, quite embarrassingly hard, to find.
Yeah, we did some I don't think it's unfair to say we did university standard research to try and find these short stories.
So we did search under both Smudboy and his actual his pseudonym or the
his actual name, which is on the cover of the book. Of course.
I don't know if it's his actual name, but it's the right name. We even found his old blog, which he last posted on in 2016, and we couldn't find any evidence of any actual sort of fiction or short stories that he's written, so it's a bit confusing.
Yeah, his Blogspot blog was mostly just Gamergate shit, wasn't it? It was just kind of.
I don't know if it's that. It's more just sort of the stuff he did on YouTube, so sort of analysis of games and. The most recent one from 2016 was him talking about some video game, I think, with Jordan Owen of all people.
I'm not familiar with Jordan Owen.
Oh, he's one of the people who made the Sarkeesian Effect, the movie.
Oh, yes, of course.
Hang on, he's the guy. Oh, hang on, I'll have to. Let's bring up Jordan Owen. Let's have a look. Jordan Owen. Here we go. So it's just sort of a strange man. Here we go. It's just sort of. So I looked this up earlier, as you can see, because I was surprised by it. And yeah, he just sort of makes vlogs complaining about white fragility and things like that nowadays. But yeah, back in the day, in 2016, he was quite popular because he made a movie about Anita Sarkeesian.
Right, and H. Bomber Guy covered this, didn't he?
I think so. Yeah.
The Sarkeesian Effect, I think.
Yes, possibly back in the day. Yeah, he was the one who used to vlog.
Davis Arini. Yes.
Oh yes, no, it was Davis Arini's
yeah.
friend, I think. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Now I'm with you. Yeah.
Co-director, something like that.
Yes. Yeah. Shout out to H Bomber Guy, I guess.
Yeah. You never know.
He needs the help. He needs our help. I think H Bomber Guy. He needs us to promote him.
Oh yeah, because he needs a bigger creator like us to give him a shot. But yeah, so this is his book. Actually, I'll bring up the Amazon for it. Here we go, because this is also quite funny in a way. So it goes: plot-focused creative writing, learn how to give your flawed characters a motive and desire whilst writing solid, engaging stories. So we've got a snappy title right off the bat.
Yes.
And my favourite part is the reviews. So when I first saw this, there was only one review which was this one, which is just someone saying, "Whack, this is whack." So it's got 3 stars because two are positive, and there's the whack one, and there's one that just says this author has absolutely no understanding of story, much less how to create one. Look elsewhere.
I would like to shout out someone who, because Smudboy has like a promotional tweet for his book that links to the Amazon, pinned on his Twitter.
Yeah.
And someone in the reactions just put, "You cannot be serious." That I think is a beautiful review.
I like that. Hang on, I'm just going to try to bring it up. Here we go. Yeah, it's the first response. Brilliant. Hang on. Here we go. Yeah, so he's the author of plot-focused creative writing. He decided to leave the rest of the name off as well. But
well, I'm not entirely sure that
you cannot be serious.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure that all that is supposed to be the title, because if we look at the cover, to learn how to give you flawed characters, etc., it seems like the tagline.
That's
but then,
yeah.
But then on Amazon it's like, plot-focused creative writing, :
Oh yeah.
The rest of his essay.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, as we'll see when we get into this book, things like sentence structure, paragraphs, they are relative to Smudboy.
Which is funny, because actual storytelling itself is apparently objective and not relative at all. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I guess that's our intro to this series and to Smudboy and his book. So essentially, it's a man who sort of gets angry with feminists on the internet, believes that storytelling and fiction is and art is objective, and has written down his thoughts on how this works, basically, and how to write the objectively perfect film
or book. Because
also, yes, it is stories, not films.
As we go through the calling this a book feels charitable. As we go through this informative pamphlet,
okay,
he kind of varies wildly within a paragraph whether he's talking about screenwriting or novel writing, which I'm sure is the same thing, and they're not separate disciplines at all. We'll get into it. So is there anything else that we really want to say about Smudboy before we dive head first into his mind?
I don't know. What's your feeling on it? Because obviously you're I refer to you as the Smudboy expert.
Well, what I'll say is this. I want to be abundantly clear that Smudboy, to me, is someone who is not so toxic as some of the people who appear on EFAP or even Literature Devil, who I do think is an objectionable person in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Smudboy, to me, is dumb. He's kind of a dope, I would say.
Yeah.
And in all honesty, I think he thinks he's doing something important here. And I want to be clear, that is what I find amusing about this. I'm not kind of getting into this CHUD book club, as we've called it, to mock someone for attempting to be creative, even if I find their attempts at creativity laughable, which, to be clear, I do. But what I kind of want to explore is the folly of this, you know, the sheer self-belief, some would call it arrogance, that you must have in order to write a document like this, you know? Like, it's like I compared this to when Sheep and I were talking about this privately. I compared this to, I don't know if people in the chat are familiar with Stephen King's On Writing, which is his book about how to write good, basically. Now, the thing with that is, Stephen King wrote that after, I believe, a couple of decades of being one of the best-selling authors in the world. So, to be honest, he kind of knows a thing or two about how to write a book that will appeal to the vast majority of people, let's say. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say Stephen King is necessarily the most high-minded literary figure in the world, right? But he knows how to write a book that will shift units. We know this, right?
Yeah.
Smudboy, not so much, as far as I can tell. Because he's the kind of guy, we all know these people, right, who refer to them as writers, refer to themselves as writers, and have a lot of opinions on writing. But when you go, oh yeah, I'd like to check out some of your stuff, mate, they just go, like, oh, it's not ready, it's not ready, it's not ready. But Smudboy takes that to another level, and that's what I find amusing about him. There's this presumption that he knows the secret formula, you know? And in fact, I shouldn't say secret formula. I think what I should say is the secret recipe. And as we get into the book, you'll understand why I've chosen that word in particular.
Okay, I'm extremely excited. I can't tell you how excited I am for this. Okay, well, I guess should we get into it? I'll just bring up. I have it on Amazon Reader here.
Yes.
So, oh, there we go. Here's the cover, and we've got the contents here. They've got. The contents alone is baffling, to be honest, because he's itinerized. So we're going to attempt to get to through the kind of intro, the preface or the preface. I never know how you say that. I think it's preface. And we're going to try and get towards the end of chapter 1. As you'll see, if we look at the contents page, though, if Sheep wants to bring that up, chapter 1 is divided into several sub-chapters, such as Rule 1, Rule 2, Rule 3, and then there's bonus rules and stuff like that. So even the contents page is labyrinthine and baffling, to be quite frank. I just love that. I love it has things like have no errors and bring meaning, as if those two are in any way like. Yeah,
I particularly like achieve verisimilitude.
Yeah, it's. Like these things are subjective, right? That's sort of the whole point.
Yeah, right. Oh man, and look, we're going to get into that. Before we get through that, though, the first section we are going to read is intro : expectations, and it's egg expectations. The word egg, E-double-G, expectations / glossary.
Okay,
it's not really. I mean, calling it. I don't know in what way this is a glossary, but we'll get into it, right?
Oh right, okay. So then, so that's.
I feel like I should kind of.
So are we? So this is a recipe, is it? It's literally just like a recipe on the.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of food metaphors, so prepare yourself for that. Because there will be a point where we start to question: Does Smudboy actually understand how to cook, let alone how to write a story?
Okay, fair enough.
So I feel like we should kind of like, we should be kind of sat around a fireplace chair and just kind of be going, are you sitting comfortably?
Okay, hang on. I can probably... Oh, shit. Oh, no, I can't do that. There we go. Okay, I can do that, and then I can do this. There we go.
So, people in the chat, are you ready for some objective writing advice? Yeah, and to be clear, it is egg like an egg, yes.
So I'm going to put some smooth jazz on. We've got some no copyright coffee house jazz that we're going to put on. I've got a roaring fire, and we're just going to sort of lie back or sit back and
I will take you on a journey.
Yes, I'm excited for this.
Well, let me know when you want me to go. I
No,
suppose.
no, absolutely. No, dive right in straight away. Sure. Go.
Well, if you want to get intro expectations / glossary. Everyone gets settled in. Get an adult beverage if you have one to hand, and well, let's get into it. So, intro : expectations / glossary. Before Sheep, feel free to interrupt at any point.
Absolutely, no, of course, yeah.
Yeah. Before starting an argument, it is imperative to define terms. I'll pepper. So that's the first food metaphor. We are starting with the food metaphors early doors.
We're starting strong. Yeah. I'm enjoying this a lot. Yeah. I'll pepper food analogies. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'll pepper food analogies throughout this book to give a better understanding that stories are to be chewed, swallowed, digested, and thought about much like a meal.
Wait, hang on. How much does he think about a meal after he's...
as we know, what one does when... It's the done thing that you consume a meal, right? And then you sit there thinking about it, ?
Yes, that's absolutely right. Now, after I have... I don't know, like a lasagna.
Or at least you do if you're eating meals objectively. Obviously, with your leftist subjective meal eating, you're not doing it right.
That's true. I'm a wrong eater. I'm a bad eater.
Hopefully, Smudboy will write a book on how to eat after this. That'd be good. Anyway, so yes, I'll pepper food analogies throughout this book to give a better understanding that stories are to be chewed, swallowed, digested, and thought about much like a meal, and presumably shat out afterwards. In the written world, the meal is something prepared, served, and presented for your mind and heart to consume. Stories must strive to stimulate both. So, with him so far, yeah?
So it's...
So we're going to move on to...
but hang on, doesn't he disagree that something should sort of stimulate your mind and heart? Because like he's actively against films that have meanings, though, right? Like The Last Jedi, for example, has very overt political overtones, but he thinks that that's objectively bad, right?
Yeah, I'm just going to say this now, Sheep. For this series, CHUD Book Club, I'm going to have to ban the phrase "The Last Jedi" because
yes, that's fair. Yeah.
We don't have time to get into anyone's feelings on The Last Jedi, right?
That's true.
Although, for the benefit of the chat, The Last Jedi fucking rules. Verisimilitude, : the ability for your... And I will be saying : every time.
That's fair, yeah.
I'm 12 years old. Yeah. The ability for your audience to believe in the lie you're telling them. The cornerstone, flavour, and quality of all good writing. And then, in italics for some reason, the feeling you get when you walk into a steakhouse. That it's a steakhouse. So, I feel like we should maybe digest that paragraph a little bit.
So, I mean, the thing is, I don't know if this is like an American thing, but I don't know if we really have many, like, exclusive steakhouses really in the UK, and I don't know what the difference is between a steakhouse and like an Italian restaurant.
Well, I hate to destroy you with facts and logic, but there's a steakhouse across the road from my place, so
okay, fair enough.
Destroyed you with facts and logic there, mate. But
well, if it's across the road from you, can you tell me what is the difference between a steakhouse and like a pub or another restaurant?
Not much. Price, it would seem.
Okay, fair enough.
Obviously, not obviously for listening to this, but I don't eat steak. I don't eat meat at all. So a steakhouse is not something I'm particularly well versed in, I suppose. But the one across the road from me, it used to be a Toby Carvery. Now it's owned by somebody else, I think it pretty much is just a high-end gastropub, pretty much. Although I will note there is a sign outside the door that says, and this maybe gives you an indication of the area I live, that says we would encourage the something like the clientele, or something like we politely encourage the clientele to wear formal dress in this restaurant. So people have obviously been showing up in their trackies with no shirt on, which is acceptable in a Toby Carvery, but not in a steak, apparently. But anyway, that is a tangent. Prepare for more tangents.
Okay, I like the tangent. Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, Versimilitude. So we've covered this. I should say for the rest of this glossary, quote unquote, he is going to kind of do this thing where he, at the end of the paragraph, has a little bit in italics, which kind of relates it back to the food metaphor, right? So what we have in Versimilitude is he says, the feeling when you walk into a steakhouse, that it's a steakhouse. Yeah. So I don't really know, and you were touching on this, Sheep, I don't really know that when you walk into a steakhouse, you kind of look around and go, yeah, that's a steakhouse. I think, but we'll move on. Story, : underlined, a series of events. For human purposes, a series of events, given agency with a character.
Okay, right. Oh yeah, okay, we'll get the whole egg bowl. Oh Jesus. Oh no. Okay, right, we're getting proper into the food metaphors next. Hello? Hey, you there? Oh dear. Oh no. Mate, you there? What's going on? Oh no. Well, this is exciting. Oh dear. Okay, well, this is fucking hell. Oh dear. Okay, right. Let's see what we can do about it. Okay, here. No, I can't do that. There we go. Oh no. Well, it looks like we've lost my co-host. We're trying to get him back now. Oh, fucking hell. Where is it? Okay, right, apparently his Discord crashed, so we're just waiting for it to boot back up, I guess. Bear with us. We're gonna get back into it. Hello?
Hello, can you hear this now?
Yeah, I can hear it, yeah, so your Discord crashed, is that right?
Yeah, sorry, we were spitting too much hard truths, I think, and
That's
Discord to end the stream early.
That's fair. There's too much
entertaining the people. Yeah, I assume you've been entertaining the people in my absence there.
I've just been sort of panicking and going, he's gone. But well, that it depends on how you define entertainment, really, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is it. I may have the henchest brain, but I do not have the henchest internet connection.
Okay, that's true. You do indeed have the henchest brain.
In fact, it's too hench. Anyway, do I need to go back over the paragraph I just read?
No, I think we're just sort of getting up to the whole egg bowl, whisk, and everything involved. I'm excited for more.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll reiterate that then, because I think I was talking as Discord went down.
Okay.
Which is standard. So this is still under his thing about story. So he says that story is the whole egg, bowl, whisk, and everything involved. The writer's study is the kitchen, one part entertainment, one part teaching, discovering meaning through entertainment, Then in italics, imagine cracking an egg in a glass bowl and looking level to the countertop the bowl is on. The story is everything you put in the bowl, including the bowl. So try to only put what's necessary in it. And then he puts note, don't put the eggshells in the bowl.
Excellent. That's an excellent cooking tip. Even if it's completely fucking irrelevant to writing a story. If you're making scrambled eggs, don't put the eggshells in. Yeah,
exactly. Just eggshells in food, not a good idea. No idea what that means in terms of story. But that's okay. We know that Smud probably knows more about eggs than he does about storytelling, right? We're aware of this.
The thing that's confused me is including the bowl. Like, what? Why would you?
Yeah, I think he's kind of got lost in his metaphor there. I'm not sure what that really means, especially since he also says, so he says, imagine cracking an egg in a glass bowl. Yeah. Okay, I'm picturing that. Yeah. Crack, egg goes in, yolk and white and everything into the glass bowl. And looking level to the countertop, the bowl is on. Not sure why you'd ever do that.
Yeah, and also there's not a purpose for it, right? That's because it's like, why bother looking at that level? Why can't you just look from above? Like, because it's not like, oh, you need to look at it from the side so that the yolk pokes up, and that's, I don't know, and some kind of story element. But
yeah, he's trying to make some kind of metaphor about the structure of the story. Surely it would. Oh, I don't know. Maybe it would make more sense if he was like, the story is the glass bowl, and I don't know, the characters of the egg. I don't know. Look, we're getting lost in the weeds already. We're not even 2 pages in.
Okay, good. Yeah.
So anyway, the next section is a good story : which apparently is distinct from just story : but okay. A believable series of events, including a character, and this bit is underlined, with sufficient detail. Sufficient detail explaining and describing the story's happenstance. Sufficient detail showing and explaining a plot. And then in italics, linking it back to the old food metaphors, he says, a really tasty steak at a steakhouse. So, just pass this in your mind, sheep.
Right.
Story is cracking an egg in a glass bowl and looking level to the countertop the bowl is on. Yeah. And the story is everything you put in the bowl, including the bowl. Don't fucking put the eggshells in. Come on, don't put the eggshells in. But then a good story is a really tasty steak at a steakhouse.
Right.
Don't know what that means.
So, I mean, steak and eggs, maybe, is he trying to, like, build a meal? So it's like, you can have steak and eggs and chips, can you? Is that a thing?
I do think that is what he's going for.
Okay.
But,
but you don't.
As we move on through this glossary, it's a glossary, we will see that he struggles with metaphor.
Right, okay.
Yes, I think this is the thing you've got to understand about Smud as well. This is just an aside, another tangent. He's very literal-minded, right? So, for example, one of his Smudcasts is about the film Nightmare on Elm Street 2, which, if anyone in the chat is familiar with that film, they'll know it's kind of a gay horror movie, right? Or at least there's a lot of gay subtext, some of which probably isn't super PC these days. Like, it's a little bit gay panicky. But he basically did a whole Smudcast about how there is no gay subtext in this movie. Now, for reference, if you go onto the Wikipedia page of Nightmare on Elm Street 2, there is a section called Gay Subtext. So, even the most cursory glance at Wikipedia would tell him that there was indeed gay subtext. But anyway, or at least there's a perception of gay subtext. Like, you could make an argument, if you really wanted to, although I don't know why you'd waste your time doing this, you really could make an argument if you wanted to, like, oh, the subtext is overstated, or it's not a deliberate subtext, perhaps, because some of the people behind that film didn't view the subtext as deliberate. There is some debate. However, Smudboy doesn't do that because, it's Smudboy. But anyway, let's get back to the book.
Right, okay, yeah.
So the next section is plot, : 1 part character motivation. Okay, I kind of like, I know we've got it up on the screen, but I need to talk people through the grammar of that sentence. So it's 1 part, double space, character, motivation is underlined, and then we have in parenthesis, the why, close parenthesis. and then the why is in inverted commas. So the sentence reads 1 part character motivation, the why. Then we have a similarly structured sentence below, 1 part character goal, parenthesis, aka plot goal, close parenthesis.
Right, okay.
And then we so far in plot he's said 1 part character motivation, 1 part character goal. Apparently character motivation and character goal are separate things, so bear that in mind as we go forwards, because he does treat them as separate things.
Right, okay, so hang on, so what does he define what the difference is? I mean, I guess obviously we're probably asking questions here that are probably going to be answered later on in the book, right? But
he will go into this later on. No spoilers, but he will go into this later on in a bit more depth.
Yeah, no, please don't spoil me. I would be very upset if I didn't get the raw Smudboy experience.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you need that raw, unfiltered Smudboy, don't you?
Yeah, raw, uncensored.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, to continue with this paragraph, so we've got plot, 1 part character motivation, the why. 1 part character goal, aka plot goal. The double-spined backbone of any story. The spine of the animal... Sorry?
So what? So the double-spined backbone of any story?
Yes.
What?
I don't know how to explain that any further to you, mate.
So
the double spine,
the double-spined backbone of any. That's. Well, it's not a spine then, is it? If there's 2 of them.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about this is what I was talking about, right? Smud's issue with metaphors is that a spine is one structure that is composed of segments, right? It's a segmented structure, the backbone.
Yeah.
Which could be quite a good metaphor for constructing a plot, right?
Yes.
But instead, he's decided to go the double-spined backbone of any story.
Double-spined backbone. How?
I mean, he does elucidate in the next sentence. He does say, the spine of the animal you've created. The reason why a character is acting. The main reason why you're reading the story. The root of all meaning.
But that's 4 things.
Yep. There's something that can only come from characters. So I don't know what you make of that, but he's going to link it back to food again in the italicized section. Right, and this is the so hold in your mind that character motivation and character goal, 2 separate things, form the double-spined backbone of any story. Yeah. And that's the spine of the animal, in this case, a story, that you've created. So picture a sheep.
Yeah. Picture
a sheep with 2 spines.
Okay, it's a creature that's in horrendous agony every moment of its life,
Yeah. One of those spines, so the sheep in this case is Star Wars The Last Jedi.
I love it. Already breaking your own rules. I love it.
Yeah.
Fuck the police.
And so one of the spines of the sheep is character motivation.
Yeah.
So why is Rey doing the things that she does in that film? She goes to Luke's house or whatever. Why is Luke being such a grumpy guy? Why is Kylo Ren walking around with his top off and looking sad? Okay, that's that. But then we have character goal, which is also known as plot goal, bear in mind.
Yeah.
So that's different to why is Rey going to Luke's house.
But also, hang on. So character goal and plot goal aren't necessarily the same thing, though, right?
No, of course not.
So, like, how is it character goal, aka plot goal?
Don't know.
Like, I mean, like, like, what if you've got a story where there's multiple characters who have different goals?
Yes.
What if you have, like, for example, Star Wars: The Last Jedi, in which you have multiple characters who all have different, but, like, I guess vaguely connected goals? Like, what
yeah, because to me, plot goal. If you're going to be distinct from character motivation and plot goal, to me that makes a certain amount of sense, because the plot goal is kind of, you know, saying like what is the writer intending you to take from this, right? So to use the example of Star Wars: The Last Jedi, which is apparently the only film that's ever been made.
Yeah.
So you have the character goal of Poe Dameron, right? He's like, we've got to fuck up the First Order, and I don't want to take orders from a woman.
Right. Yeah.
And then we have the character motivation of Admiral Holdo, who's like, No, we're going to stay the course, and you're going to put up and shut up to Poe.
Yeah.
Whereas you could argue that the plot goal, or the writer's goal, as I would define it, is kind of finding the middle ground between, or like, you know, is going to portray which one of those has the right mentality, you know, or which one of those is proven right by the story, if you see what I mean. I mean, all of this is quite baffling. But so anyway, you're picturing a sheep with two spines, right?
Picture a sheep with two spines. That's also somehow also the Last Jedi. Yeah. Yeah,
the sheep is the Last Jedi, and the two spines are I don't know, character motivation and character goal.
Okay, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, we are a bit confused. Obviously, we're not scholars of story in the way that Smud is.
Definitely not as sort of schooled in sheep biology as Smudboy.
Yeah, but he's going to link it back to food for us.
That's helpful.
So, in italics, he says of plot: the tasty, fatty, invisible, non-stick, buttery part of your egg you spray your pan with. Without this, your egg will stick and cook to the sides of your pan, and you'd have wasted an egg.
So what?
I'll run that one by you again.
Okay, right.
Because that might have been a result of my bad reading. Okay. The tasty, fatty, invisible, non-stick, buttery part of your egg you spray your pan with. Without this, your egg will stick and cook to the sides of your pan, and you'd have wasted an egg.
That's not egg. That's I think Americans have like a spray-on thing, but usually I just put like a knob of butter or some oil in. But like that's not a part of the egg, right? I mean, the tasty, fatty, invisible, non-stick, buttery part of your it's just butter. Like this buttery part of your egg. I don't know what he's talking about. This might be a thing of we're British, and I just want to destroy you with facts and logic again. Smudboy's Canadian. So, is he actually Canadian? Oh, okay.
Yes, he is Canadian-born. He's not a fan of Justin Trudeau, I'll tell you that. But
is he not? Okay.
No.
I'm not a fan of Justin Trudeau either, but I imagine for wildly different reasons.
Yeah, I mean, he's a racist fucker. Yeah, that's among other things. We're not here to talk about Justin Trudeau. We're here to talk about the mind of Smud.
Yes.
So the next section. So we've covered plot. We know what plot is. It's both a double-spined backbone of an animal we've created, and the tasty, fatty, invisible, non-stick, buttery part of an egg. Okay. We know this.
Brilliant.
We've got that in our head. Yeah. Subplot: : and this bit's underlined for no apparent reason. A secondary motivation that runs complementary to the main plot. A story thread with motivation that must connect back to the main plot via a plot point.
Oh, like that really good bit in Star Wars Episode 7: The Last Jedi.
Yes, where they go to the... Yes, I was about to destroy you with facts and logic again, but you corrected yourself.
My apologies, Mr. Shapiro.
Please don't. Although my P word is wet.
Jesus Christ. Okay. I can't believe you just said that. Yeah, okay. Good.
Yeah, sorry. A story thread with motivation that must connect back to the main plot via a plot point. So yes, like the little mission to Canto Bight that is kind of a side quest in The Last Jedi that eventually comes back round to the main plot. Now, he then goes on to compare it to a connecting bone or appendage from the spine of the animal you've created. He doesn't say which of the spines that the bone or appendage is connecting to.
Right.
But just bear in mind, we've got two spines and an appendage.
So what's it connecting to?
Just says a connecting bone or appendage from the spine of the animal you've created.
Spines?
Yeah, let's say that. We've got two spines and we've got a little one running in the middle, so it's like a letter A, right?
Okay, yeah. All right.
Yeah. He then, in italics, to clear this up for us, connects it back to the world of eggs. And he says, another smaller egg dish to serve on top of or next to the main, similar to an appetizer. So far in the kitchen, we've walked into a steakhouse and we've confirmed that it's a steakhouse because that's Versimilitude.
So we've got steak and we've got eggs.
Yeah.
We haven't got chips.
Apparently we've wandered straight into the kitchen of the steakhouse because we're also cracking an egg into a glass bowl. We're not putting the eggshells in the bowl.
Well, no, I
but
assumed that we worked in the steakhouse. Thought that was what was going on.
Okay, I'll give you that.
So we're like a chef, I think.
Yeah, we are a chef. Yeah. Just to be fair, as we know, the writer's study is the kitchen. He did establish that. So credit where credit's due. But yes, so far we have walked into the steakhouse. We've confirmed that it's a steakhouse.
Yeah.
We've cracked an egg in a glass bowl.
We have.
And we've looked level to the countertop the bowl is on.
We haven't cooked the egg yet. Oh no, we have. We're doing that later on. Yeah.
We have cooked the egg, yes, but we've not put the fucking eggshells in the bowl.
No, that would be a disaster.
Yes. So remember that a good story is also a really tasty steak at a steakhouse.
Yeah, that's important to know.
A plot is both the double-spined backbone of an animal that we've created. So we are now kind of, not only are we chefs at a steakhouse who are cracking eggs,
we're also like playing God right now.
Yeah, we are Frankenstein-esque characters in this.
So we're Frankenstein-esque chefs.
Yeah.
Or is this kind of like a genetically engineered creature that we've created specifically to make steaks out of? Is that?
It's possible, yeah. It's possible, yeah. Okay. But also, don't forget that the plot is the tasty, fatty, invisible, non-stick, buttery part of your egg. Yeah, we're not sure what that means because we're British. Okay. We think it might be. Maybe the chat can elucidate us on this. How do Americans/Canadians cook their eggs that we're not getting there?
Well, apparently does the tasty with other bits of eggs? I mean,
but that doesn't make sense. No, let's move on. The subplot is another egg dish that we're serving either on top of or next to the main. Yeah. So far we've got a steak, some weird egg concoction, then we've got another egg on top of that egg.
Yeah.
So that's that. Okay, so we're moving now onto a section called plot goal, which may cover some of the confusion that we've had as to what the difference between plot goal and character goal is. So brace yourself.
Yeah, okay.
Plot goal, : the object or goal the main characters want or are trying to achieve. E.g., the golden fleece, a peaceful future, whodunit, a dead body, etc.
He also misspelled whodunit. I just want to point that out.
Yes, he did. But, you did. You love to be anal, and you love to destroy people with facts and logic, as you have done just there.
Okay.
The public, obvious, knowable, clear, in-universe point of the whole story.
Right.
So that's what he means by plot goal. Essentially, what he means by plot goal is MacGuffin, right? Like, you're familiar with that term?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So that's.
Yeah.
Oh, so why is he calling it a plot? Why doesn't he just call it like the academically like well-known term that is like well-known in most circles, right? Why doesn't he just call it the MacGuffin?
Yeah, that would make a certain amount of sense. I'm glad to see that Imposter Professor Oak says that they've never heard of somebody spraying a pan with egg. So it's not just us.
No, okay.
That's good. What I will say though, so basically what he's saying in terms, so like the golden fleece, if people in the chat aren't familiar with the term MacGuffin, it essentially just means the object that the plot revolves around. So in Lord of the Rings, the One Ring is a MacGuffin. Raiders of the Lost Ark is a MacGuffin, right? And you can get very literal with that, or you can get very kind of. So as Smudboy actually alludes to here, like technically, like a peaceful future could be considered a MacGuffin. I would argue that a MacGuffin has to be an object rather than just something that your characters are looking for in general, but that makes sense, right?
Yeah. So what you're saying is it's arguable that someone could argue that it's like.
Yeah, if you wanted to get very kind of nitty gritty with definitions, you could say that a peaceful future is a kind of MacGuffin, I suppose.
Okay.
But in the more standard use of the term, it's things like the One Ring, the Lost Ark, that sort of thing. Okay. Or Smudboy himself even says the Golden Fleece, if you were talking Jason and the Argonauts, I suppose.
Yeah.
Anywho, we move on to plot point : a major step along the journey to get to the plot goal. A shift in direction from the plot goal. A goal or point of contention in a story surrounded by at least two shortcomings the main characters must overcome, both prior and post. Do we need clarification of that, or is that fairly straightforward?
No, I think that's. I mean, like, yeah. So we know what a plot point is. So I don't think we really need to
No, I just mean, is Smud's wording confusing? Because I'm assuming that we all know, because this is the thing that we'll learn as we go through this book. Like, a lot of his advice is fairly basic, right? Like, a lot of it is like, you need to have a plot that people want to read. Right. Like, you know, it's fairly basic, but he kind of he muddies the waters by just throwing in all the, like, his sentence structures are baffling. Like, if we look at a goal or point of contention in a story surrounded by at least two shortcomings the main characters must overcome both prior and post. Yeah, that's quite a long-winded way of saying an event that changes the course of the story. You know?
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. So that's an issue. That's an issue. We're in dire need of an editor throughout this book.
So why is he?
He's not linked this back to eggs yet. So plot goal and plot point, he doesn't link back to eggs, which is unfortunate.
I just don't understand why he's like needlessly kind of complicated it. You know, like a major step along the journey to get to the plot goal, shifting direction from, like, we know what a plot point is.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
We'll move on.
Okay.
Plot integrity. Plot integrity, :
Yeah.
The solidity or necessity of a component in a plot. How solid a story is, i.e. how focused the story is on the plot. How essential an element is in the story. Sorry, I kind of read that wrong. How essential an element is in the story. So if that's confused you, sheep, he goes on to say, in italics, how egg-flavoured an egg dish is.
Okay, right. I mean, someone in the chat pointed it out, but I am starting to wonder: does he ever eat anything but eggs? It does.
Eggs and steak, I think, are the main components of the Smudboy diet. It has to be said.
He's doing the Michaela Peterson diet, is he?
Yeah, I do know from his Twitter that he is rather a connoisseur. This is something that we actually have in common, me and Smudboy. Okay. He is a connoisseur of IPAs.
Okay.
That's Indian Pale Ale for people who are not aware.
Okay.
I'm sure most people are. I just when you put a mic in front of me, I feel the need to explain everything I say.
Okay. That's fair.
Yeah. So he is quite a fan of Abbott Ale, which is one of my preferences.
Okay.
But so in a way, me and Smud, we're coming from we've got some common ground.
You know what? I think that if you met Smudboy, maybe you should go for a drink with him one time. What do you think about that?
Honestly, if anyone knows Smudboy, Stefan, whatever his name is, please arrange it so that we can have a drink together. Because I don't think we'll leave that drink as firm friends, but I just want to meet him. He's become such a figure in my life, you know? We talk about parasocial relationships.
Yeah, you have a sort of anti-parasocial relationship with Smudboy. This is my sort of experience of it. It seems like you watch a lot of his videos specifically sort of to get mad at them or to like laugh at them. Is that?
I don't know that I get mad at them. I think. Well, I mean, look, as we do CHUD Book Club, as we go through the book, we'll reveal more and more about the psyche of Henchbrain 666 and why he is drawn towards figures that he adamantly disagrees with.
Okay, yeah, I'm excited for that. Okay.
But I will say, yes, I do. I have listened to a lot of Smudcast. It does. It's very long, so I can just kind of put it on work and not have to change the audio up too much. So that's one thing. Yeah, and like I will say, I find it more amusing to EFAP, where I wouldn't want to go for a drink with Mauler, even though that's probably more achievable because he's British, right, Mauler? But
no, I agree. I think like Mauler's, he seems like the sort of person who would refuse to pay for a round, you know?
Yeah, or he'd be one of those guys. You get to the pub and it's your round first, and then he'd leave by the time it's his round, you know? he'd make a French exit before it's his round.
Yes, this is the thing. Is like I think Smudboy is just. I mean, I don't want to insult him, but I think he's just a bit ignorant. I think he just doesn't know what he's talking about, but he likes to think he does. I think Mauler's just like actively just like a real piece of shit. That's my opinion of Mauler. But yeah, but I don't think Smudboy is like an actual bad person. I think he's just a bit of an idiot, to be honest with you.
Yeah, true. But I would like to say, I'd like to vow now, before it's audience 21, if Mauler ever comes out with any kind of book, we'll cover that shit.
Okay.
We'll cover it, cover. Because I know some of the EFAT boys are planning to write fiction. I know Fringy is threatening to write a novel. In fact, I think he's in the middle of a novel.
See, I don't know who like half these people are. I mean, I know like there's 3 main people on EFAP, right? There's Mauler,
Yes.
Rags, and that other guy.
Well, Wolf isn't really part of it anymore.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to talk out of turn because I don't really know the ins and outs of it, but I gather he's left EFAP due to, personal issues, mental health issues,
that's
things
fair.
like
No,
that.
I don't really
So,
follow like these kind of. I all I know about them really is that they spend 12 hours whining about a Jenny Nicholson video and stuff like that.
Yes. And Rags made sure to mention that he felt that Jenny's appearance was not to his liking.
Yeah.
That's the kind of quality. I feel like, Sheep, I've become a sort of EFAP/Smudcast Sherpa for you. Like, I'm kind of leading you over the rocky mountains of this nonsense, you know?
Yeah, you just sort of.
Yeah.
I can see that. You're sort of helping me out to understand this confusing world that we find ourselves in.
At the potential cost of my insanity. So anyway, yes. So anyway, to return to the masterwork. So plot integrity. So we've covered this. Is how egg flavored an egg dish is.
Well, I guess
so.
My question was the solidity or necessity of a component in a plot, but that's not. But it's talking about a component in a plot. It's not talking about the plot itself, right?
Yeah.
So I guess that's sort of confusing because it's not like sort of plot point integrity. It's like.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what he means. I think because when I hear the term plot integrity, I sort of think. Like the integrity of a structure, right? Like, how much does the plot stand up to scrutiny? I guess would be what I.
Yeah.
Think.
So if I was to talk about plot integrity, I guess I'd talk about how much. I guess that what he's trying to say is what I think, which is that it's how each component works its way into the story, but it's just.
Yeah. But then that definition doesn't really jibe with how egg flavored an egg dish is, right? Because
it's like I would talk about elements though. So
it's odd because to me, if you're talking about how egg flavored an egg dish is, the more clear metaphor is like genre, right? Like how much it conforms to a genre.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I take it we're going to get into genre later on in the book. Is that?
Yes, because Smud has some very solid thoughts on genre. And we'll get into that later on. Now, we have the next section after plot integrity is plot integral. So bear that in mind. We're getting into the weeds again.
So plot integrity, plot integral. What?
Yeah. So plot integral : an object, component, or literary device that, if removed, would alter the outcome of a story. A composite relationship between an element and the plot. And I can tell you're a bit confused by this one, Matt. So we'll link it back to the world of eggs.
Yeah.
If you take the egg out of an egg dish, it is no longer an egg dish.
What? Hang on, so I've got an object, component, or literary device that I'm just doing stuff. An object, component, or literary device that, if removed, would alter the outcome of a story.
Yeah. So if you have Eggs Benedict and you take out the eggs...
It's just Benedict.
It's just Benedict Cumberbatch.
It is.
Sorry, I mean Bendilac Womdy Flomp or whatever. You've always got to do like a stupid meme phrase for his name, right? But if you take,
so is this again just sorry, what I was going to say. Oh, is this just like the MacGuffin again? Is that what he's talking about? Because it's an object, component, or literary device that, if removed, would alter. So he's just talking about.
Yeah, that is he's essentially talking about MacGuffins again. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
I mean, I suppose. No, I don't know, because I was thinking when I first read this, because yes, I have read this before, as we've covered.
Yes.
I sort of thought what he meant was, so if we ignore the fact of object, because I think that's muddying the waters.
Right, yeah.
I think if we kind of just take it as like a component or literary device.
Yeah.
So, for example, what I would use here is, let's say you were writing an epistolary. So, for the benefit of people who don't know, that's like a novel in the form of letters or diary entries, right?
Yeah.
If you took that element out of it and you just wrote it as normal prose,
yeah,
that would fundamentally, I don't know if it would alter the outcome of the story necessarily, because the plot would presumably still be the same, but it would alter the delivery system of the story, if you see what I mean. It would give you a different perspective on the story.
Yeah, so I saw that, but he's sort of relating it to plot, so that's what I'm...
Yeah, I know, and I mean, this is something that you'll come to understand with Smud, is like, one sentence in a paragraph can kind of make sense, but then it's immediately contradicted by the next sentence.
Oh, okay.
And then he'll kind of allude to eggs, and you'll really get confused. Okay. I hope the chat are ready to hear a lot of egg talk.
Well, I mean, if they're not by now, I mean, they've sort of missed something, because we've already had too much eggs for one day, I think. But I mean, if is it going to be like, is it going to be this much egg throughout the entire book?
Not through the entire book, but okay. He does like to draw analogies to. I think he might be a frustrated chef, to be honest.
Okay.
But anyway, we're moving on to something that I think is a bit more understandable for most people.
Yeah.
Character.
Character, yeah. Okay.
Colon.
We all know where we are with character. Yeah, let's go.
We know what the word character means, right? But Smud's going to give us his definition. A flawed personification of an ideology. Full stop.
What?
He goes on. An incomplete persona, a developing one. The main vehicle for pushing the story forward. The thing the reader needs to identify with. The idea of a person. So before we get into the egg metaphor,
right? I think we need to
give.
Sorry.
Give me your thoughts on that. What does that mean to you?
It doesn't mean anything. Like the flawed personification of an ideology. So like.
Yeah, and it should be mentioned that the sort of subtitle of this book is like how to write good flawed characters, or whatever, right?
Oh right,
like,
okay, right, yeah.
Yeah. So when he like flawed characters is a big thing for him. So yes, to reiterate that.
God, The Last Jedi really did just break his brain, didn't it? Fuck.
Yeah.
So the thing is that everything he's saying that like you could, or that you should put in a story, can very easily just be. You could obviously just point to it and say that happens in The Last Jedi. Does that mean that The Last Jedi is a good film?
Yeah, because I'll be honest, when I sort of read this chapter, obviously knowing that Smudboy he is something of a Last Jedi scholar, as we know.
Yeah.
When I read this section of the chapter, I should say, where it says a flawed personification of an ideology, an incomplete persona, a developing one, and also the main vehicle for pushing the story forward, I sort of thought you could pretty much map that onto Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi, right? Because he is kind of a flawed personification of an ideology, right? He's the Last Jedi, you know. He's kind
Jedi. Yeah, absolutely.
A broken man, an incomplete persona where he doesn't quite. He doesn't realise that he's still developing, I suppose.
Or you could even say Rey is a developing persona.
Yeah, or even Kylo Ren kind of maps onto this, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah, and anyway, and as the thing the reader needs to identify with, the idea of a person.
So this the idea of a person that's confusing me. Like I get that you need to identify with a character. No, I not necessarily agree with him, but like the idea of a person, like what could that possibly mean?
Well, if this elucidates the matter for you, he has an egg metaphor.
Okay, right.
So in italics, hopefully an attractive piece of easy-to-use cutlery you're serving with your egg dish. You don't eat soup with a fork! !
Okay, so immediately I'm confused as to why he's gone from eggs to soup. Like, I don't know.
Yes.
I've never had egg soup. It might be a thing. But I don't know. It seems like if he's going to stick to the egg and steak metaphor, why not say, you don't eat steak with a spoon or something? Like, why?
Yeah.
Why go? You don't.
I think. Well, I've got an answer for you there, Matt. Sheep, I should say.
That's fine. Matt.
I've probably called you Matt like 5 times
That's
already. Fine. Don't dox me, Matt. Hopefully. So I think what he's saying here, like, I've got an answer for you. I think the reason he goes to soup is that what he kind of wants to say is you don't eat egg with a spoon, but you can eat egg with a spoon, and you can also eat it with a fork, right? So I think the reason he jumps to soup is it's like egg can be eaten a number of ways, right? Like, But obviously, soup, you need a spoon.
Also, someone in the chat has pointed out that there is such a thing as egg drop soup. I've never
really?
had that personally, but
I don't know what that is.
No, let's have a look. Actually, let's have a look what egg drop soup is.
Are we educating the chat?
Well, I think they're
educating us. Yeah.
Yeah. Best egg drop soup. Does look like it is a thing. Let's have a look.
I mean, I didn't doubt that it was a thing.
Oh, it looks like it's like a Chinese dish.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, I've never had.
I mean, to be fair, I might ask Mrs. Henchbrain 666 about that later because she's fond of Chinese cuisine and things like that, so she probably does know what it is.
Fair enough. Okay, well, you might be having egg drop soup for dinner then.
Might be dropping eggs in my soup. So anyway, so to round out that section, he kind of says that. So he's comparing character to an attractive piece of easy to use cutlery that you're serving your egg dish with, right?
See, this is what I'm like. I don't like that metaphor.
Sorry,
does not work.
Someone in the chat's just put egg build.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm new to streaming. I don't know if we're supposed to. What the chat is saying.
That's part of streaming. That's why there's a chat where we do respond to things.
Yeah.
But that's Courts, who's great. Everyone check out Courts. But so the thing with the cutlery metaphor is that like that's how you. I guess you could use it for something, but that's like how you're consuming the meal, which is the story, right? But like you don't consume a story with character. Like that doesn't make sense to me.
Well, I think what he's trying to say is like the characters are the delivery system for the plot, which I don't necessarily agree with. In fact, I don't agree with in any way, shape, or form. But
right, okay.
But because to me, I don't. Because it kind of. Again, this is the issue with Smudboy. Is I don't think he's seen many films or read many books that are outside of certain genres. So I think when he's talking about characters as a delivery system for plot, he's talking about a very specific kind of film story, however you want to phrase it. Right? Whereas you could have a story that has relatively little plot that is focused on character, like a character study, as it's called.
Yeah,
right?
Well, that's a well-known kind of story.
Like a film that I know Smudboy is fond of, Joker.
Yeah, that's a good point. That is more of a character-focused. There's not.
Yeah, I mean there is a plot. There are plot mechanics, but it's mostly about the plot is the delivery system for the character, for instance, right?
Yeah.
Whereas, and it can be the other way around sometimes. I'm trying to think of good examples now, but I guess something like a Marvel film, I suppose, would be kind of an instance where the characters are kind of delivery systems or tools of the plot, maybe. But
because in most Marvel movies, there's not like a direct arc, or there's not the characters don't tend to change much or have much of a. There's not much exploration of their characters or their individuality,
Actually, I think maybe a better analogy would be, if we're saying that, would be like James Bond, right?
Oh yeah, who does just stay the same, yeah.
Who never changes, or each incarnation of it is the same throughout their run, right?
Yeah.
But the whole thing is he just kind of goes from A to B. Like Bond is there to serve the plot, the setting, not necessarily the plot, but the things that you expect from a Bond movie. The action sequences, the different locations. He just facilitates that, right?
Yes. Yeah. So he's sort of a blank canvas. Well, I guess another way of putting it, I guess, is like the. Like Gordon Freeman, and obviously we're skipping mediums here, but someone like Gordon Freeman would be like the perfect example of this, because he's not a character really. He doesn't do or say he doesn't say anything, but he exists to facilitate the story.
Yes, exactly. I think actually in terms of video games, that is almost the perfect analogy, right? Where it's like. Video game characters, for the most part, unless you're talking about something like The Last of Us, are not the player characters are not particularly well-rounded, or their emotions aren't gone into in depth, and they don't particularly have arcs. Generally speaking, okay. We've passed some wisdom out of that, I think.
Okay.
Almost entirely unintentionally on Smudboy's part, I think. But
yeah, because to be honest, whilst I am quite happy that there is such a thing as an egg soup, and whilst you might be getting your Chinese takeout later, apparently, I'm not convinced that that was what Smudboy was going for when he was went from egg to soup.
No.
Because
I think it's because he realised that an egg can be eaten an array of cutlery, so we had to find a different analogy, right?
Yeah, because we'd be trying to we'd then be switching mediums of food, I guess, right? Because we've gone from steak and eggs, and then we're going straight to Chinese food.
Yeah, it is baffling.
Yeah,
but let's move on to the next section.
Okay, right, yeah.
So character flaw, colon.
Yeah.
Colon. Now, this is one that I want to emphasize because Smudboy is all about flawed characters, right?
Right, okay.
This is his whole thesis is that the characters have to be believably flawed.
Yeah.
And we'll see that as the book goes on. So, character flaw, colon, aka character weakness, humanity, full stop. The thing a character needs to fix.
Interesting.
A weakness that needs to change. A private, the word private is underlined, unknown, hidden flaw, or error in their behavior, ideology, or persona of a character. So I think I read that wrong. A private, unknown, hidden flaw, or the behavior, ideology, or a persona of a character.
Okay.
The thing characters must attack in other characters. The avenue or variable that allows a reader to identify with the character. A problem that's causing interpersonal tension and conflict that needs to change. No egg metaphor, so we've just got to try and pass that for ourselves.
Oh, see, I don't like that. If he's gonna go for the egg metaphor, at least commit to it. Do it for every single one. He was doing fucking soup a minute ago. He's obviously not committed to egg specifically. Just make.
On that subject, I do just want to say that the best pieces of advice we've read so far are: don't put the eggshells in the bowl, and you don't eat soup with a fork.
That's true.
Those are two solid bits of advice that we've passed from Smudboy's book. Right?
That is correct. They're not necessarily storytelling advice, but they are solid
life hacks.
Yeah, they're life hacks. Yeah, life hacks don't put the shell in the bowl. Yeah, okay.
Do not eat the shell.
Well, I guess that my thought on this is that why, if it's a flaw, when he says it's a weakness that needs to change, does he sort of mean like in the story or just in general? Because,
well, it's interesting. I'm not entirely sure. What he I think his perception of what a character arc is, which we might get into more as we go along, is this kind of aspect of a character has. It's kind of almost, in a way, he's almost touching on classic Greek tragedy, right? That the protagonist has a fatal flaw, like they would in a Greek tragedy.
Yeah.
That is essentially the driving force of the plot. So often you'll have in kind of, and it's kind of reflected in Shakespeare as well, which people are probably more familiar with, right? So Hamlet, for example, his defining fatal flaw is his indecision, right? He can't choose whether to kill his uncle for shagging his mum or not, right? Because he's well, if I kill him, does he go to heaven? There's all this stuff. So his indecision is the driving force of the plot.
Yeah.
So in that regard, there is a certain mode of storytelling where I think he's exactly the thing a character needs to fix is the driving factor of the plot.
Yes.
However, I'm not entirely clear whether he means the character needs to fix it within the frame of the narrative. This is a flaw that drives the character on. Because he also defines it as a private, unknown, hidden flaw, error in their behavior, ideology, or persona of a character. Right? So I don't know why it needs to be private or unknown. That is something that baffles me slightly, because if it's driving the plot forward, how can it be private?
Yeah, because at least someone else must know about it, unless it's
because he then goes on to say the thing characters must attack in other characters. So I don't know if what he's doing here is giving us alternate definitions of character flaw, or whether all of these are supposed to be considered.
I don't get
because he can.
What does he mean by the thing characters must attack in other characters? So what? Racism? Is it basically saying
maybe
make your
I don't know.
character some kind of bigot or something?
Well, if I may draw your attention to a little known art, Star Wars: The Last Jedi.
Oh yeah.
I suppose you could say. So, for example, if you take Luke Skywalker in that, the flaw that Rey is attacking in him is that he's basically just completely given up, right?
Yeah.
He's kind of checked out of the war and he's decided to just chill on a rock drinking tit milk. Green tit milk.
Yeah, we don't want to forget the green tit milk. Yeah.
It's the green part that's weird.
Straight from the tit.
Straight from the titty, yeah. I mean, fair enough. We've all got a retirement plan, right? But so I guess you could say that is something that the other characters feel they need to attack. And then he kind of goes on to say the avenue or variable. But do we identify with characters because of their flaws or because of other aspects, I suppose, would be my question. Obviously, it's easier to relate to a flawed character because people are flawed, right?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that that's the only thing that people relate to.
Yeah.
And also, it depends on the flaw. Like, I mean, if the flaw is, like, I don't know, like racism. Like, I mean, I don't know. I guess it depends on the character. But the thing is that now we're getting into the main problem with this book is that everything he's talking about is subjective and does depend from story to story. And so this is the problem when you get one of these people who's very, very into the objectivity in art thing, is that when they actually try and write their ideas down, there are multiple ways for you to say, well, actually that's not true because of this, or like give counter examples, I guess. And it's just sort of this is why Mauler hasn't written a book about how to make an objectively good story, because then we could just point at him and say, well, why the fuck haven't you made one, you know? Yeah, and it's kind of this. Yeah, you're right. This kind of is the thing that kind of betrays the folly of quote unquote objective analysis, right? Of art, at any rate, because you're quite right. I don't know if I have much said actually. So let's move on to the next section. Okay. Which remember that this is distinct from character flaw. Yeah.
Shortcoming: a hurdle to overcome. A public requirement or complication that needs to be met by a character to satisfy a plot point.
What?
A guidepost at a plot point that points to the next plot point. A guidepost that is immediately after a plot point and before the next. So, before we move on to the food metaphor.
Yeah.
What? You know what I mean?
That doesn't mean it. So, a hurdle to overcome, that's fairly easy to understand. Or
yes.
Like,
a problem presents itself, yeah.
Like a public requirement or complication that needs to be met by a character to satisfy. Like, what does that mean? Like, should we just like kind of pass out, I guess? Well,
I suppose what that could mean, if we relate it to a little-known indie film called The Last Jedi, we could say that a public requirement or complication is that no one knows where Luke Skywalker is, right? And they feel that they need him to lead the resistance.
Right.
So I guess that is a need that needs to be met by a character to satisfy a plot point. But again, I'm not entirely sure that's right. Someone will get Smudboy in the chat. We need to ask him about this. Because I'm not... Well, first of all, I'm not entirely sure synonymous.
Yeah, I mean, I just... A public requirement or complication that needs to be met, like... I don't know, it doesn't seem... It's sort of he's using words to say nothing. I don't know, it doesn't seem to mean much to me.
He also says a guidepost at a plot point that points to the next plot point, which is beautiful prose, obviously. But
a guidepost...
What does it mean? A guidepost at a plot point that points to the next plot point.
Well, so I guess it's
you reach a plot point.
Yeah.
You find a guidepost.
Right.
The guidepost points you to the next plot point.
I think what it means is he's talking about the absolute masterpiece, which is X-Men Origins Wolverine, in which the story is Wolverine goes and meets other characters who say, "No, I can't help you, but you want to talk to this other guy," and it's sort of it's split up into multiple different sort of sections of Wolverine going and talking to other people. Maybe it's just sort of like that. I mean, I don't know what this has to do with a character shortcoming, but like a guide post at a plot point that points to the next plot point could be like, I don't know, like they could, in Lord of the Rings when they come out of Moria, it's like, oh well, now because Gandalf's dead, we need to go to.
Yeah. Okay.
But I don't get what that's got to do with characters, you know?
Yeah. I think using again, it feels quite video gamey, right? Like it's kind of, as you say, it's like you go from plot A, like point A to point B, and when you get to point B, they're like, "No, ha ha ha! Your princess is in another castle," and then
right,
you move
okay,
on.
yeah. So again, we're not sort of. Has he specified like a medium? Because like, could he potentially be talking about video games when he's talking about this stuff?
No, he wildly switches between mediums as we go on. He is mostly talking about sort of written fiction, I suppose, because he's talking about novels or screenplays, but the two are, to Smud's mind, interchangeable.
Right, yeah, I'm just because like the title is like plot focused creative writing. Learn how to give your flawed characters a motive and desire whilst writing solid, engaging stories. But he doesn't ever say like books or as you were saying earlier, they are just completely different.
Yeah, I mean, stories are objectively good or bad, right? So it doesn't matter what the medium is.
Yeah, no,
they either work or they don't.
Yeah, that's very confusing to me. Okay, yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's perfectly fine. That is how that's the format, mate. Can I just ask a technical question? Is the chat still active? Because I can't see any updates on the chat for quite some time.
No, it is active. It's just people aren't typing stuff. I guess.
No, that's cool. That's cool. I just want to make sure we haven't bored everyone to death. Or at least not yet. So anyway, to perhaps clarify what is meant by the shortcoming paragraph here, he goes into a useful metaphor: the fork, knife, and other cutlery, bookending your arriving dishes. So,
right.
What do you reckon to that?
Hang on. So, the fork, knife, and other cutlery, bookending. What does? I mean.
Okay, the chat. We've got an update in the chat. It says, I'm just vibing. That's cool. Okay. That's the attitude we do want. We just want people sat by the fire, drinking an adult beverage, listening to us bollocking on about Smudboy's crappy book.
That's the dream. We're living the dream right now. I just I just don't. How is that? I get what he means. That obviously, like, if I assume. Because again, we've switched sort of culinary spaces here, so we've gone from steakhouse to sort of Chinese restaurant, and now we're kind of a sort of posh restaurant where you've got like multiple different courses. So I guess like after the soup course or before the soup course, they bring you your soup spoon, and then after that they bring you your other cutlery, and we're talking like sort of a. Like at the Ritz, I guess, where you've got like multiple different kinds of cutlery, but at the same time,
but don't forget that your character is also an attractive piece of easy-to-use cutlery that you're serving an egg dish with.
Yes, I mean, well, at least he's being internally consistent with the cutlery, I guess. But also, like, how is that shortcoming? Because like. Unless it's using shortcoming in some kind of new way that we weren't.
Well, I suppose because he's using it as a guidepost to a plot point. So I guess if your analogy of like got like 7 forks and 7 knives that are kind of foreshadowing different courses.
Yeah.
But I mean that is a fucking laboured metaphor. Let's like,
and also that's to do with like plot, not characters, and we're still talking about characters here, I assume.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. He's a dopey twat. Let's just move on.
Okay. You do have a very strange relationship with Smudboy and his content. So you do. I'm genuinely not sure if you love or hate it.
I late it or I huff it. I don't know.
You huff it. Like
I huff. I'm huffing the fumes of Smudboy's eggy farts. I feel like I've really lowered the tone of the Sheep in the Box channel just by my brief appearance, but oh well. Yeah, I mean, the chat is saying, I'll admit I am relative, someone said. Someone else has said, the eggs, man, what do they mean? I've got to tell you, friend, you'll never know. You'll never know what the eggs mean.
Yeah, we've been trying to work out what the eggs could possibly mean.
I dream of eggs now. Eggs haunt my waking and sleeping hours.
Oh, man.
Anywho, the next section, character facade, colon. The original personality of the character.
Right.
The persona of a character that is broken down as the story progresses. The conscious aspect of a character lying to themselves due to their flaw, parentheses, S. So he's being like flaw or flaws there.
Okay, again, we've missed out on the egg.
Yeah, no egg metaphor. No fucking egg metaphor there. Really half-arsing it, Smud.
Yeah, he's really not... yeah, he's not having a good time. It's, I don't... Okay, so like the original personality of the... Oh, okay, so I sort of get what he means by this. So it's like... I guess if it's a flawed character, it's the... Well, it's a facade. It's the sort of impression that the character wants to present to other characters, I guess. And then that's... But then again, that's a very specific kind of character that he's talking about here. Again, it's like the persona of the character is broken down as the story progresses. Like... I mean,
yeah, it doesn't exactly apply to every single character, does it?
No, I mean, using your James Bond example from earlier, like, I mean, James Bond is obviously has a lot of damage, but
can I just shout out someone, adored Pariah in the chat saying the shell of the egg?
Yes, excellent.
That works for me. I mean, you got to crack down the egg to get to the. You got to crack the shell to get to the egg, right? So.
Oh no, it's the shell of the, yeah. That makes much more sense than any of his egg metaphors, and he hasn't even bothered putting one in here.
Yeah. I think Adored Pariah should write a book about how to objectively create egg metaphors.
That's correct. Work. Yes, I agree with that, or at least some kind of like short how-to guide or pamphlet or something. But yeah, so like again, it is a very like I guess Smudboy has just sort of decided that having a flawed character means a very well, I don't know. I guess he's got a very specific idea of what a flawed character has to be, because he's
I think
thinking of a specific character in his head. That's what
I think when he's saying a flawed character, like I get the impression that what he means is like, kind of a very generic sort of male anti-hero. Like I don't think he's necessarily picturing much more than like a stubbly man who sometimes drinks too much and looks sad, you know? Like I think that's what we're dealing with, if you know what I mean. Okay,
so I was thinking like what's it called? The big square dudes from Gears of War.
Yeah, I'll take your word for that. I'm not super familiar with Gears of War.
Neither am I, but they look like the most grizzled...
Yeah, I'm saying like every video game protagonist, basically. Like, apart from Mario, who is obviously flawless.
Of course. Also,
Sonic, on the other hand, has some deep-rooted misogyny within him.
Yeah, hang on, I'm just going to see if I can bring up the... Oh, no. Yeah, here we go. So just like this kind of character here. Sort of very, very large and grizzled.
Sure. Chad Manley, as my writing teacher at university used to call those characters. No egg metaphor.
That's very sad.
So that's sad. That's sad. But we can move on to the next section if you want. So, following character facade, we have character development : aka character change.
Okay, so we've got character arcs, basically. That's very simple, yeah.
The process where flaws break down the original ideology persona of a character, where they either A, adopt a new ideology persona, or B, become a modified version of their existing one, requires a Satori point for its resolution. Now, I was going to research what a Satori point is, but I forgot. So,
okay, hang on, let's have a look if we can find out what a Satori point is.
But yeah, so whilst you're looking for that, we do have an egg metaphor.
Okay, so I think it may be something else in the book, because if you Google Satori Point, it comes up with like flats to rent.
Sure. Not sure what he means by that. Then would have been nice if he clarified, given that this section's supposed to be a glossary. But as we've covered, he's a dope. We do have an egg metaphor though.
Oh, cooking the egg just right.
Cooking the egg just right.
Love it.
Which I assume means objectively correctly.
Yeah. So if we've got again, I don't like see, like cooking the egg just right. I guess I get what he's going from in that, like he's taken the egg from being uncooked to being cooked perfectly. In that the character starts off being flawed and ends being a different character.
Yeah.
But it is very.
I just at this juncture, sorry, something's just occurred to me. So you know earlier when he was saying that the let me find the exact. I'll just scroll back. Yeah, so you know when he was talking about cracking an egg into a glass bowl and all that bollocks, right?
Oh, and looking at it from the side.
Yeah. So he was saying that everything in the bowl is the story, including the bowl.
Yeah.
But I hate to be that guy, but in order to cook an egg just right, the egg has to leave the bowl and enter the pan, presumably.
Oh God! No, let's not start questioning the logic of
is the story not the pan? Because I mean that makes more sense though, right? Because the story
actually, that
is
does
what changes the character, right? It changes the character. Although the character isn't the egg, is it? The character's the cutlery that you're serving the egg with.
Jesus. Yeah.
I mean, this is fucking baffling.
So,
I've read this chapter, this introductory thing, I think 3 or 4 times now. Because if you go onto Amazon, it is like this intro glossary thing is the free sample.
Okay.
And because I knew we were doing this, I mean, this is what piqued my interest originally, right? Was that this intro is so insane. But the thing, I just can't wrap my head around the metaphor. I think the issue is Smud is changing metaphors with each section, right?
Yeah,
like
this is.
I get what he's trying to do. He's trying to say like these are all the components that make a functional meal. Yeah.
Yeah.
But as we've discussed, the egg has left the bowl, and the bowl is gone in the pan, and the fork is the character, and the egg is the plot, but the bowl is also the plot. But don't put the fucking shells in, whatever you do.
Yeah, it's he obviously didn't think very hard about the egg metaphor. It's been stretched. It was changed to soup at one point. It was originally steak, and then it became egg again.
Sorry, your fans in the chat are very. Yes, Riot Fox. I agree that this guy is giving writing advice, and no one knows what he's on about. So that is a definite L.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
and Adore Pariah. Yeah, that's the sequel, prequel, origin story arc of the egg. Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Oh God. Yes, he's. Well, the next section's rather short. It's just main character : a protagonist or antagonist.
Okay, right.
Make it that way. No egg metaphor.
Hang on, no, that's so he's going to all this like.
He does. Sorry, he does. I should say he does go on to clarify what he means by protagonist. I just find it funny that there's a section that is just main character : a protagonist or antagonist.
Oh, so he's not really going to that because there's a chapter later on. Is that right?
No. Well, the next section, to be fair.
Oh, I see. Right. So the next section is protagonist, and then after that is antagonist.
I just find it funny that he felt the need to include a definition of main character, but then also, which is simply just a.
Yeah. So that's not even like a bad. I mean, that's not even like a good description of main character, right? Because a protagonist and an antagonist don't necessarily have to be the main character.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, exactly.
Not necessarily. Yeah. So, sorry, I've just leaned really far back in my chair. Can you hear me?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, I'll try to project.
Okay. Yeah.
As I lean back in front of the fire. Brilliant. So yeah, the next section: protagonist : the primary character in charge of the story, the champion of their plot, a character of a particular flavour.
Okay. So before we go on to the egg metaphor, But first of all, what does it mean in charge of the story? Because I
think he means the character who's moving the plot along. I don't think he means the character is I mean, again, it's
But again, that's...
he struggles with words.
But this is again like not necessarily accurate, because like there's a lot of stories where the story will happen to the character as opposed to the character having any agency within the story, and that will be like like a lot of horror movies will be like that, in that it's just sort of like a character who things happen to until the end, you know?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. But look, there's an egg metaphor, which might illuminate things. So brace yourself.
Okay, yeah.
Like plot,
yeah.
The fatty. sorry. I'll collect myself because we're going to have a lot to say about this.
Okay.
Like plot, the fatty oil in the pan, but of a certain brand name, essential ingredient, needs seasoning.
So what?
So let me run that by you again without laughing. Like plot, the fatty oil in the pan, but of a certain brand name, essential ingredient, needs seasoning.
What?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what that means.
So he's not only is he reusing his own metaphors, but he's just like he's obviously not sure how to cook an egg either. So like,
hang on a fucking second. So character development is cooking the egg just right.
Yeah.
But your protagonist is the fatty oil in the pan, but it's a certain brand name.
Yeah, so like the fuck me.
Yeah.
I don't get why it's a specific brand name. Like what's that?
I can't even think of a brand name of oil, actually.
No.
I mean, I tend to just use like Aldi's Own or whatever.
I just use butter because I have like a lot of sandwiches and I just have a lot left over. So like,
yeah, actually, we've moved on to coconut oil because we don't.
Oh, of course, you're probably vegan now, right?
Oh no, I'm not vegan, but Mrs. Henchbrain 666 is keen on cutting down the fatty oil.
Okay, fair enough.
You're going to learn about my domestic life that goes on as well.
Well, that's fun because like we're like quite good IRL friends, so it's like quite good to learn about each other during lockdown as well. So that's fun. One thing that like I don't get is why does it need seasoning if it's just like olive oil, right?
Well, sometimes you would season the oil depending on what you make. Although you're not really seasoning the oil. Like sometimes you might, like, for example, if you're putting sort of what am I thinking of? Not grated garlic, but sort of like if you've diced a load of garlic, you might throw that in with the oil so that you infuse the entire meal with garlic flavoring, right?
Yeah.
But you're not really seasoning the oil; you're seasoning the food, right?
Yeah. No, I get like garlic butter as garlic oil as a whole thing, but the purpose of that isn't so that the fatty, what was it? The fatty oil in the pan. That's a certain
brand name. So let's come up with a brand name. Oily. I don't know. What's a brand? I can't believe it's not oil. We'll say that.
I can't believe it's not oil. Yeah. Okay.
I can't believe it's not oil. So that's the brand name we're using, and that somehow relates to the protagonist.
Yes.
It's an essential ingredient, and it needs seasoning.
And also the thing is, it's not an ingredient, right? If you're making, like, I don't know, say you're making an omelette, right? That's one of the only like dishes that's just egg.
That is an egg dish. Yeah, that is what you call an egg dish. Yeah.
Yeah. So like that's not. I don't know. Like that's not an ingredient of the egg. That's just allowing you to cook it, right?
Right. Okay. I think we've kind of hit a wall with protagonists, so let's move on to antagonist.
Okay, right,
we might be able to use antagonist to then define protagonist.
Oh yeah, we can having a look at the opposite. We can sort of work out what it is.
So, antagonist, :
yeah,
the primary character in charge of attacking the protagonist.
Attacking the protagonist. Okay.
Yes.
Right.
It's the. I'm loving Adored Pariah in the chat. Very confused. As are we all, I'm sure.
Yeah.
The primary character in charge of attacking the protagonist. The secondary character in charge of the story. A character supreme who thinks they're in charge of this story. So, what do you reckon to that?
Okay, right. So, first of all, like, why do an antagonist doesn't necessarily even have to be aware of the protagonist, right? Like, a lot of the time they're not aware of them, like, and the protagonist has to fight them because they're doing, I don't know, like some terrible thing. But they're not. This is a very kind of
there's
like,
even examples
supervillain kind of
there's even examples like a film that I'm fairly certain Smudboy must have seen. Do you know The Fifth Element?
Yes, The Fifth Element.
Yeah. So in that, so Bruce Willis is the hero in that, Gary Oldman villain, and they never meet throughout the entirety of the film.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting point. So you can do that where the antagonist doesn't actually meet the protagonist. But anyway, we're confused, so he's going to give us a to tide us over.
Okay, right.
He says, the water in the pan, also brand named, essential ingredient.
No, I'm sorry, no, fuck off. Like that's like, okay, we were already stretching it to breaking point, but for a start, like, how much money does Smudboy doing that every time he, like, I don't know, cooks pasta or something, he like dumps a bottle of fucking Evian or something in there? Like, what's he talking about? The water in the pan, also brand name. For a start, are we not making eggs anymore, or is it like, I don't know, was it boiled eggs maybe? But like no,
we're frying eggs, but we're putting oil and water in at the same time.
That's how you get fire. I've worked in a kitchen. That's not a good idea. And like,
no, listen, Matt.
Yeah.
It's simple, right? The protagonist is the fatty oil in the pan of a certain brand name. Right. We've gone for, I can't believe it's not oil.
Yeah.
The water, let's say Evian, is brand named.
Okay.
That's also going in the pan.
Right.
The egg, which is the plot, right?
Yeah.
We think, is leaving the bowl, which is also part of the, and entering the pan, whereupon it will make contact with the protagonist, the oil, the antagonist, the water, all of which are brand named.
Okay, so this is definitely not what he means by any stretch. But like, I'm fairly sure that if you like put water in like a pan with loads of butter in it, it will cause a fire, right? So is that what he's saying? That like the relationship between the protagonist and the antagonist
is what burns the egg.
Will cause will cause the fire and the intensity of the story, maybe.
I wish it was that simple, mate. I wish it made that much sense.
So I kind of get what he means by like the secondary character in charge of the story, because like again, if we're just assuming that it's a standard sort of hero's journey kind of story, which is a huge ask already, but like, yeah, so like I get that like if the protagonist is the major driver of the story, the antagonist is sort of pushing in the opposite direction and causing like a conflict. I get that, but I don't get like the primary character in charge of attacking the protagonist.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, again, I suppose, yeah, because there are some stories where the protagonist attacks the antagonist, or as we've mentioned, where they're not even aware of each other. So,
yeah,
it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Well,
there,
I mean,
does it?
I guess just think of like any story where the bad guy or the antagonist is like some huge faceless corporation. Like, I mean, they're obviously not actively going to be attacking the protagonist or anything like that.
No, but they're making life hard for the protagonist, I suppose.
Yeah, but
maybe the word
that's
attacking
like,
is too literal. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like using the word attacking does sort of imply some kind of agency.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, we'll see if his definition of side character, colon, a character based on a singular aspect of the protagonist or the antagonist, helps or hinders the main characters, attacks their weaknesses.
Okay.
So no egg metaphor there, unfortunately. So can't pass that at all without the egg metaphor.
Okay, right. So character based on a again, this is like where you have like a filler episode of Star Trek or something, right? Where you've got like some someone who's I don't know, like they're trapped in their own mind or something, and like you have different characters who represent different parts of them. But like again, this doesn't work when you've got like say an ensemble film or something like that, where you've got multiple protagonists.
Yeah.
Or if you've got some characters that are sort of more prominent than others, but aren't necessarily.
Oh, well, let's try and pass this out.
Okay.
So, let's take a franchise, a story. However, I think most people are familiar with. Let's take Lord of the Rings, right?
Yeah, Lord of the Rings.
So, in Lord of the Rings, you have the Fellowship. So, if we accept that Frodo is the protagonist, the fatty oil in the pan.
Okay, yeah.
And we accept that Sauron is the water in the pan, Evian, brand named.
Okay, yeah.
Not tap water. Got to be clear about that.
Yeah, it has to be brand named. Yeah.
Yeah. So if we accept that Sauron is the antagonist, Frodo is the protagonist, then the rest of the characters in the Fellowship are side characters, or at least they are in the Fellowship of the Ring.
Right. Yeah.
So a character based on a singular aspect of the protagonist or antagonist. So, in what way would we say like Gandalf is an aspect of the protagonist or antagonist? I suppose he's powerful like Sauron. He's old like Sauron. He's got access to knowledge like Sauron. I don't know.
Like the idea is that Gandalf is like what a good Sauron would be like. Because like
the chat is brilliant. Frodo is the egg here, or the
brilliant. No, but
who knows? Who knows?
Like, I guess if you really want, I don't know how far we want to get into like Tolkien lore, but like, aren't Sauron and Gandalf?
Yeah, I think what this labyrinthine conversation needs is Tolkien lore.
I don't know. Like, yeah, I guess you could make an argument for Gandalf, but I mean, most of the other characters definitely not. Like fucking Gimli. Like, what's Gimli's...
Yeah, how is he based on a singular aspect of Frodo or Sam?
Yeah, or
he's
like,
not, right?
Yeah, or Legolas, or like, because like the characters represent things in the story, but they don't represent a part of the main characters or the antagonists. Psyche, and then obviously the later you get on in the story, like you've got multiple protagonists and antagonists. Like you've got Saruman for like, a bit as well, and then you've got the multiple different strands of the story with the Legolas, Gimli, and Aragorn, and then you've got the Pippin and Merry and all that stuff. And it's like how like is Treebeard like a metaphor for Pippin's
lust. His boundless lust.
Yes, that's what it is. Yeah. Brilliant. Frodo's the egg, Gollum is the water, and Gandalf is the seasoning, and Sauron is the fire.
Yeah, I just want to say as well, Riot Fox, you're absolutely correct. This book is going nowhere. I have read ahead. I can tell you it's going somewhere. It's going right up Smudboy's smud hole.
Okay. Fair enough.
Anyway, theme, what the story is about. A repeated motif of conflict found throughout the story, e.g. man versus man. No egg metaphor.
But the thing is that with theme, like I'm vaguely aware of Smudboy, not as much as you, but like, doesn't Smudboy dislike theme, or is that like an EFAP thing? Because I remember during the Last Jedi.
If it's an EFAP thing, it's a Smudboy thing. You know what I'm saying? He has a tendency to follow the leader on that. No, yeah, he does like to make fun of defenders, as he puts it, by saying, my themes, because they often... What you got to understand is the EFAPers and the Smudcasters think plot is the most important part of narrative. So theme is like... In fairness to Mauler, he has said in the past, like, theme is important, but he doesn't think it should like overpower plot, right? Okay,
right. Yeah, I guess that's... I disagree, but I guess it's a reasonable-ish take.
Yeah. Whereas like Smud, because he always has the... I don't know how to put this politely. The dumber version of what Mauler said as his main take. He kind of...
Right.
He kind of extrapolates that and makes it out like theme bad, basically. Which is... I was surprised when I saw theme pop up in this, because he often makes fun of people for saying, oh, it's good because the themes are good. But then I don't actually think that's how people are defending The Last Jedi necessarily. I think they're
it's
saying,
an element, I guess, that you can appreciate about it, but it's not necessarily like why it's good or whatever.
No. And I just want to clarify as well to the chat, to everyone listening, that it's okay to like or dislike a movie. You don't have a super in-depth rationale of why you did or didn't like it. Sometimes you watch something and it just doesn't grab you, or you read something and something about it just turns you off, right? You don't need to justify that to anyone, which is kind of the point that we're sort of getting around to, right? This is why the objectivity thing is a folly in and of itself.
Oh yeah, it's perfectly fine and normal to dislike something, but they do take it a step too far. Like it does become, I didn't like this thing because it was objectively bad. It's like,
yeah, or you end up saying things like Mauler's famous comment about, it's okay if you like Last Jedi, but you have to acknowledge that it's objectively bad. Which, what? Why would I go like... I mean, I suppose there are things that I consider bad that I enjoy.
Yeah.
Smudcast, for example.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. Oh, God. I think I'm now arguing myself into a corner because Smudcast is objectively bad. Anyway.
Okay, fair enough. Right, okay.
Major theme, : what the story is primarily about. 51% of the story. Very precise. Don't know what that means.
What?
Well, let me tell you. Let me reiterate that again. Major theme, : what the story is primarily about. 51% of the story.
Hang on. So, like, what's the difference between theme and major theme, then?
I can't tell you. I can't.
If the theme is what the story is about, and the major theme is what the story is primarily about, so, like, I get that there can be multiple themes, but, like...
Yeah, I mean, there is an egg metaphor here, if we want to kind of get in there.
Right, yeah.
So he compares the 51% of the story, the major themes, the egg white, the largest part of the egg.
I love it. It's brilliant. Okay, so we're back to eggs at least. That's something.
Yeah, we were all getting scared but the eggs are still very much within the building. Yeah, I don't really know what any of that means. But he goes on. Let's see if he makes it any clearer. With minor theme, : what the story is also about after the major theme. The second largest ingredient, 49% of the story. Now, you'll notice he doesn't go on to say which part of the egg that is.
Okay. Well, I get surely it's the yolk. Like, why would... like, I mean, if we've already got the egg white, what's...
Smud... well, I almost called you Smud there. Matt, you poor fool. The minor theme of the story is not the yolk. We've got the yolk to come. The yolk is coming soon. But I guess the minor theme is... I don't know what the minor theme is. It's not the egg white, we know that.
Okay, right, but, so I guess at least I understand a bit more. So theme overall is like what the theme is. That's what the story is about. But okay, for a start, not most films, but a lot of films don't have like a major and a minor theme. They will just be about one thing, right? And also,
yeah.
Like, why is he talking about like 51% of the story and 49% of the story? Like, the theme doesn't necessarily have to be like integral to the
theme
story.
Isn't really. Yeah, I would argue the theme is not really part of the story. It's kind of, this is the problem when discussing theme, is that it is like, you can look at a film or a piece of art or a piece of literature, whatever, and then just kind of go and kind of extrapolate from that what you want to take from it. Obviously, because I think, speaking as a writer, I suppose, speaking as a writer in inverted commas.
Well, to be fair, no, you have like actually had like short films made and like distributed, right? So like,
I have.
Yeah,
I have.
So you are a filmmaker. So I guess that you're probably more able to speak on this than Smudboy is.
I suppose what I would say is that, like, when I'm writing a screenplay theme that I'm working on,
yeah,
like, to me that is a fairly subconscious part of writing.
Yeah.
And like sometimes like when I've made stuff in the past, and shown it to people, you know, had it at festivals or whatever, people come up to me and go, "Oh, I really thought it was interesting how it was about X, Y, and Z," and I go, "Was it?" You know what I mean? Because like on a certain level, thematic. I'm like, I'm not saying like the interpretation, like it's based on what the text is, you know. But like, I might have had a different idea of what the major and minor theme were to what an audience might have. Well, so it's one of those things that's hard to calibrate in that way. It's hard to kind of sit down and go, I want to write something on the theme of X, you know?
Well, I guess the theme as well is highly up to interpretation unless you actually like come out and say the theme was this. And even then I guess you could argue like death of the author. But it's like, I mean, the whole point of a lot of like film criticism is sort of what does this mean? You know, so it's like you can say the major and minor theme, but again, as you said, it's not necessarily something you sort of put into a story, but also it's sort of debatable and it's up for interpretation as to what the theme even is of a given story.
Anyway, there's no point trying to interpret this section because there is no egg metaphor.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah,
so I feel like we need to give the people what they want, which is more egg metaphors, which we are going to get to.
Okay.
Conflict. : characters meeting opposition. Fairly straightforward, right? I think we can agree that's fairly straightforward, right? Characters meeting opposition, conflict. It's maybe a little simple, maybe a little oversimplified, because obviously conflict can be internal. It's kind of I mean, characters meeting opposition. Yeah, that's a fairly consistent part of storytelling. You know, conflict is the soul of drama.
Well, I mean, like characters meeting opposition. I mean, obviously, again, like none of this is like universal because you can always find some movie where it doesn't apply. But it's like when the way that he's just said characters meeting opposition. Why doesn't he just say conflict : conflict? Because like we know what
he's
conflict means.
Dividing the word, I guess. I don't know, but sorry. The chat, we've got subconsciously this author was hungry for eggs.
I don't think that was subconscious at this point. I think that's fully conscious.
Do you know what I would say, Adored Pariah, that is the major theme. So the egg white of this book is eggs.
But what's the minor theme? I guess we'll find out what the minor theme is.
Well, I think Riot Fox has summed up the moral of the story, which is the real eggs were the friends we made along.
That's true. I love it. Yeah.
I feel like if we could start some kind of Smudboy egg meme thing going, that would be basically I could retire from life. I could just ascend to another level. Your
goal in life is to spam Smudboy. Well, do you have Twitter? You could just like tweet him pictures of eggs every so often.
I don't have Twitter, but if people want more from Henchbrain, I might step up to the Twitter plate.
So the idea for this, I don't know like what we're going to do with the VODs and stuff, but the idea is that we are going to do it on your channel eventually, right? I guess we can just discuss that another time. But like, obviously,
that's maybe an off-mic conversation.
Yeah, but
if people are into this, we are going to do more of Smudboys, I think, for definite.
You wanted to do Lord of Patriarchy's book, didn't you?
I do. I also want to cover Movie Bob's book about Super Mario / his life.
Oh god,
which I've not read yet, but I've seen a few reviews.
Oh, okay.
That one looks like a literary experience, to be honest with you. Yes, I want to do Lord of Patriarchy because, of course, he's a character, shall we say? That's the C word I'll choose to go with there.
Okay.
He's a character. Is he Lord of Patriarchy? He used to be War Corps, right?
Yeah, he used to be War Corps, but then I think he got banned because he screamed ableist slurs at a small child or something in a video.
Oh, that'll do it. War Corps 666, right? That used to be his name. Is he? I just want to clarify to the chat. He's no relation.
Okay, that's fair.
Because I'm Henchbrain 666 of the Hampton 666.
Of course.
So anyway, yes, conflict. So there is a food metaphor for conflict, and the chat might be surprised to learn, or unsurprised to learn, that they've actually preempted Smudboy here a little bit, because he says that conflict is the fire in the pan, the spice of life, but he then goes on to say something edible.
Fucking Jesus Christ. Okay, for a start, like, you don't want fire in the pan, like, unless you're cooking something very specific. Like, if you, I'm assuming we're still going with eggs. Like, if you're making eggs, you don't want fire in the pan. Like that's the opposite of what you want. You want it underneath the pan. That's ideally what you want. I mean, ideally you don't want fire anywhere, but in the pan is probably not like a good place to have it. And also, how is it the fire and also edible is what I want to know.
I can see that people are confused by this one. I mean, I'm more confused by the fact that he says that the fire in the pan, the spice of life, something edible. I mean, I guess fire eaters are a thing, but so, I don't know if that's the illusion that he's making.
So we've gone from a steakhouse kitchen, which is, I mean, like, he's jumped all over the place, but that's generally where we are. We're either at the table eating a meal or in the kitchen making a meal in the steakhouse. But now we've gone to the circus with fire eaters. Is that what you're saying?
No, I think they're still in the kitchen.
What? What kind of kitchen is this?
Well, it's... I don't know. It's the kitchen of story, I suppose, Matt.
Okay,
like, it's
that's fair. Yeah, that's fair.
It's there's Dune references in the chat. The spice must flow. Excited about the movie, actually. It's probably not going to come out this year, right? But excited about the new movie.
Fair enough. I haven't seen the original movie.
I've tried to read the book, but I'm too stupid to get through. That's my that's my review of the book. But I kind of like the David Lynch movie, but the new one looks more like an actual film, you know.
Okay,
And good question from the chat. How is spice different from seasoning? Who knows? The egg dish ingredients live by a nation. I appreciate that. We love Avatar. Anyway, climax, : the nebulous section of writing where a character is forced to make a choice and change that choice. The process of death, Satori, and rebirth of character personas from facades to actualized personalities. The height of tension, conflict, and choice making... I'll read that again. The height of tension, conflict, and choice making by the main characters. Okay, and this, Matt, is the yolk of the egg.
Okay, right. This is the yolk of the egg. Oh, hang on. Oh, yes, it is the yolk of the egg. Sorry, apologies. So, first of all, I guess, like, if we're talking about a kind of... I was going to say... if we're talking about some kind of objective standard of how to make a good story, how can it be nebulous? Is the first question. And also, I guess we're going to have to look up Satori again, because last time it brought up some kind of upscale.
Well, it's okay, Matt. I kind of obscured a plot twist here, which is the next section. He's going to describe to us what a Satori Point is.
Oh, okay, right. I've looked it up. It looks like it's some kind of Buddhist thing. Okay, well,
yes,
if he explains it later on, that's fine. We can get into it when we get to it.
Yeah, that is literally the next section. I just wanted you to have the...
Okay.
Googling it and finding nothing.
Okay. Okay. So it's something he has actually made up, is it?
Well, I don't know. It sounds like it's some kind of Buddhist, maybe Hindu thing. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, maybe Smudboy has a spiritual side that he doesn't show very often. I don't know.
Well, I mean, according to Google, it means it's like the Buddhist term for awakening or something. But
okay, sure. Well, should we get straight into Satori Point, or do we have more to say on Climax?
Well, hang on. Let's have a look. Yeah, I mean, I guess he's immediately undermined the entire book by saying it's nebulous. So it's like, well, what's the point of this book then if you're not going to teach me how to perfectly write a story? And why haven't you used your own advice to write a story? Oh, because it's nebulous and it varies. Okay, fair enough then.
Yeah, it's quite... I don't really know what's going on here. So I'm getting distracted by the Dune talk in the chat. Which, I think I'm going to give the audiobook Imposter Professor Oak, because I've always wanted to read the book, but every time I try to, it's like maybe the prose is a little bit too dense for me. I don't know. I find it hard to get through. But I'm a fan of other Dune media, like the TV shows and the David Lynch movie and stuff. But sorry, that was a complete sidetrack. But
that's all right. No, that's fine. I don't know anything about Dune, so I know it's got a big one in it. That's all I know.
Oh, he's the biggest. That's what happens though when you're dealing with a brain as hench.
That's true.
Tangents occur. So, Satori Point. We're going to clarify this. A specific section of writing in a climax where the character is reborn. the axis pivot point where a character has become another, the exact moment where the character has made a choice. And then he says the chalazé of the egg. I'm not exactly sure.
Oh, it's a whole. I don't know if you even eat that though. Like the chalazé, I believe it's like a bit of the top of the egg that like that the chick that's inside the egg would use to like breathe or something. Hang on. Right. Well, first, hang on. I'm gonna look at how's this.
Whilst you're looking at that, Adored Pariah. Yeah, I know people who are big Dune fans, super into the sort of the nebulous media around it. But I quite liked it. Do you know Children of Dune with James McAvoy? I thought that was quite good. Very of its time. Riot Fox, yeah. There's sadly a lack of eggs in Dune. There's quite a few eggs in The Mandalorian if you're watching that. So if you want more eggs in your narrative, you can get into that. There's a shocking amount of eggs in that, actually.
Okay, so we've got chalazé, which is in a bird's egg, each of the two twisted membranous strips joining the yolk to the ends of the shell. So basically, when like before you crack the egg, it's got like two sort of like sort of strings, I guess, that stop the egg breaking inside the egg, I guess.
Okay. Okay, sure. Just sure, whatever.
And also, like the Satori Point, isn't this like what's the like? Isn't this just a renamed bit from the hero's journey?
Quite possibly. Whilst you do that, I'll do some more vamping. It's a bit harsh on James McAvoy there. I like to Split, although it does have some unfortunate ableism in it, which not the best. But his performance in Split is excellent.
Oh no, okay.
Also, Filth. If anyone's seen that, is pretty funny. It's funny to me anyway because I've got an awful sense of humour. But yeah, I don't mind McAvoy, is what I'm saying.
Okay, right. Good. Hang on. Right. So. Yeah, so it looks like this is just like a renamed bit here. So we've got like the first threshold and like approaching stuff like that. Yeah, so I think basically he's just sort of stolen this, but basically it's just like the axis pivot point where a character has become another. That's like...
Yeah, it's like standard, Joseph Campbell stuff, I guess, that he's reworded. Yeah,
and it's just... Yeah, I don't know, it doesn't really mean anything, but also it's sort of not exactly new. Like the exact...
Yeah, and I should say...
made a choice, but like that's the...
Yeah, I should say, like, people talk about the hero's journey a lot. I have very mixed feelings about it. I think it's a pretty essential foundational text for, like, understanding the fundamentals of most stories, I suppose.
Yeah.
Or when I say story, I mean like mainstream stories. The famous example, George Lucas was very influenced by it when he made Star Wars.
Yes.
And obviously things like Lord of the Rings that we've mentioned before, like big old epics is what it was about. Because essentially, Campbell was really kind of talking about mythology and
so
ancient legends. And stuff like that.
Yeah, wasn't it originally invented as a way to sort of categorize like stuff like Greek epics and things?
Yeah,
like that,
yeah,
as opposed to like all stuff. So it's one of those things that's like people don't really get that it is usually later applied to previously existing stories as opposed to being like something like a step-by-step thing for...
Yeah, and I think it's slightly George Lucas's fault that people take it as like a blueprint for story, because he was quite open about like he read the book and then basically tried to write a story that conformed to those plot points,
Yeah.
Which is fine, like if that's the kind of thing you want to write. Like I'm not saying, that's a bad way of doing it. I'm saying like the hero's journey is kind of held up as this thing of like, this is the essence of all story, which I don't think it was ever really supposed to be.
Yeah.
That said, I think I'm right in saying Joseph beliefs, so like I don't think I really want to kind of hold him up as this great thinker necessarily. I mean, if you're interested in mythology, I would recommend The Hero with a Thousand Faces by Joseph Campbell as a read. Just don't take it too seriously, I guess. Don't take it as writing advice. Take it as a deconstruction of popular mythology and things like that, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, the chat has gone off in a Dooney direction here.
Excellent.
I love it. Egg is the mind killer. Omelets are the little death that bring total eggification.
Brilliant. Again, I don't know what that means, but good.
It's from the book. It's like fear is the mind killer. It's like a mantra from the story.
Oh, okay.
We should watch Dune. If it comes out in the cinema, we should go together.
Yeah, sure. And after lockdown, obviously, but yeah.
Yeah, after lockdown. Yeah. Pacing : do you like how I just slalom back into the book?
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm
no
more than happy
warning.
with that. I'm just having a chill time. Let's go.
Yeah. Pacing : the sense and feeling of the time it takes to get to plot point, the time between scenes. And I kind of want to just barrel straight into the food metaphor. How long your customers are waiting between dishes.
Okay, so I mean, I guess first of all, isn't a story made up of scenes? Like, there's nothing that happens between scenes, right?
Yeah, you're quite right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, what does that even mean?
To me, pacing is all about like how long a scene is, rather than the time between scenes.
Yeah,
like it's not like you watch a scene. You know, it's not like there's a love scene and then 30 seconds of a black screen and then an action scene.
Well, I mean, it depends. Have you ever seen the work of Ozu, the Japanese director?
Yeah. I mean, I every time. I mean, this is here, right? Is that like, yeah, you can think of an example that goes against anything that we say, really, right?
Yeah, but it's like if the majority of the time, unless you're making an art film or anything like that, it will just be like one scene after the other because that's like how a story works.
Yeah. I thought we were going to struggle to the end of chapter 1 today, but we just so the chat is aware, we're not even in chapter 1 yet.
No, we're in the glossary still.
We're still in the glossary.
I think we're going to finish the glossary and then end because it's just taking a little longer than we thought. But
yeah. Oh God. Okay. I love how into the egg stuff people are because it really made me delighted that the egg thing is becoming a theme here. Yeah, Adored Pariah. Yeah, we're not at the end of the glossary, and there's a preface before chapter 1, so this might end up being a really long series.
That's fine. That's fine. We could do this.
I think what I'll do is because I'm still reading the book. I'll get to the end of the book, and then because to be fair, there's a lot of chapters in this that are just boring.
Yeah.
I might just try and do a highlights really, and just summarize what is said in other chapters, or I might just find sections of each chapter that are particularly amusing. Okay, because to be honest, the glossary is one that I wanted to do from start to end, unabridged, because as we've seen, it's fucking amazing. We're learning so much.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, the irony of him talking about us stretching out the glossary for over 2 hours is not lost on me. But at any rate, genre is the next one. So we discussed genre earlier.
Yeah, he's got a big thing about genre, right? He's very strict with the way the genre works.
Yes, and he in his discussion with Jack Saint, he talks about, if people do want to watch that to make sure I'm not misrepresenting what Smudboy says here, he kind of talks about genre as like this very strict set of rules, and Jack kind of calls him up on, I don't know Jack Saint, Mr. Saint calls him up on this, and he kind of, because Saint kind of uses some of the analogies that I was using about like horror comedy and stuff like that, right? And even within the genre of comedy, you could say like black comedy is different to like a rom-com, right?
Yeah.
But to Smudboy's mind, there are like genre is very objective, it's very, there are parameters within which you write, sort of. Yeah. Whereas I think Patricia Taxon talks about genre as like a marketing tool.
Yes, well, that's mostly what it is, right? Especially when it comes to things like horror or like sci-fi or stuff like that. It's
and I don't necessarily think I don't totally agree with Patricia on that, because I think it's genre is flexible,
Yeah.
And yeah, yeah. Yeah, right, Fox. We did link the chat with Jack saying earlier on, but we can pop it in the chat again later.
Yeah, I did, but honestly, you just need to search on YouTube Smudboy Jack Saint, it'll come up. It's the first result. So
Yeah. I mean, Adored Pariah is cracking a joke here, but it's to a pretty good point. So when we talk about general story structure, we often talk about a 3-act structure, right? So if you wanted to make a meal metaphor, starter, main course, dessert would make a lot more sense, right? And you could have the dessert.
Yeah, because he's very, very married to the hero's journey, sort of 3-act structure kind of thing, obviously.
Yeah, which is fine, because to be clear, I think if you're teaching someone to write, I think the 3-act structure is helpful for beginner writers, even if you then move on to 4-act structures, 5-act structures, things like that. So I think just nailing down a beginning, a middle, and an end is quite useful as a writer. You know, I mean, that sounds like very obvious 101 stuff, but like you'd be surprised the amount of scripts that I've read, because I do sometimes edit scripts as well, which is why I have a particular interest in books such as this. You do often find that certain writers don't necessarily have the greatest grasp on beginning, middle, end, really, because and like not every story needs it, not every in that solid way.
Yeah.
But you kind of want to, if you're writing a character study that is fairly plotless, like a good piece of advice I would often give to people whose scripts I'm editing is like, you don't have an act structure in this script, but you want to convince the audience you do, if that makes sense. Like, you never want the audience to be aware of the fact that they're like, this kind of is a rambling thing. Unless that's kind of the point, unless you're drawing to it as part of the point. But again, this is also subjective, right? Like, this is so subjective. And like, I will say, as one thing that I do relate to Smudboy about him, as a writer, I was going to say known for my structural rigor, but like, I like to be very structured in the scripts that I write. Okay. So I do tend to kind of favor at least an act structure rather than just being a kind of plotless character study. And that's kind of what, when people ask me to edit their scripts, that's kind of what they ask me to do with it, right? It's like, tighten it up, sort out the pacing, get it a bit more ABC, you know?
Yeah, no, that's no, I think it's interesting because like your most recent film was actually a horror comedy, right? So,
well, no, my most recent film is.
Sorry?
It's it's just a horror.
Okay.
I'm working on a horror comedy.
Oh, that's what I was thinking of. Yeah,
that might be what you're thinking of. I don't want to promo my film because I'm a mystery. I'm a mystery man.
You are a mystery man. But okay, that's fair. So
you could put it in the Discord or whatever. But Henchbrain must remain an enigma. Anyway, let's talk about genre.
Okay, let's talk about genre.
Genre, labelled, categorised, historically evidenced expectations containing patterned ideas.
That doesn't mean anything, but yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't mean a fucking thing. Something to tell you what not to read. So, I mean, I want to just highlight that sentence. Something to tell you what not to read.
What the fuck does that mean?
Surely he means something to tell you what to read, right? Because I think what he's trying to say is like, so if you like, say, romance novels, you're seeking out romance novels. I don't think I've ever. I mean, I don't. Maybe I don't. I just don't know.
I mean, like, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I guess it depends on the person, right? Because, like,
yeah.
Like,
I'm
happy to read anything or like watch any kind of movie or anything like that, or read any kind of book. But like, I guess if you're like adamantly against, I don't know, like fantasy or sci-fi or something. But then again, that's highly subjective. I mean, I guess before we move on, like one thing I really want to get into is I think that he's very clearly basing a lot of this on criticism he's received online, especially the historically evidenced expectations.
Yes, which again is something he gets deep into in the Jack Saint conversation.
Yeah, because like I mean, I guess it's sort of, it comes back to a fundamental disagreement. Really, is that does the fact that something has always been a certain way mean that it always has to be? You know, like if you say, I I don't know, sci-fi always has to be in space or have some kind of like robot or something in it.
Yeah,
like that. That doesn't necessarily. That would then exclude like time travel movies or something like that. And a lot of sort of more conventional action movies could be described as sci-fi. And then obviously you've got Star Wars, which are gonna. We decided we weren't going to talk about it, and now we're just talking about it all the time, which I think is good because I quite like the idea of applying Smudboy's.
And I think as well. I think it is good because what we've done there early on, we're not going to talk about The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
And then I subverted everyone's expectation.
That's true.
By only talking about The Last Jedi.
That's true. And subverting expectations is the goal. But no, with Star Wars, like there's always a debate over whether or not it's like real sci-fi or whether it's like science fantasy or whether it's just like fantasy in space.
And I have the definitive answer to that question if you're interested.
What is the definitive answer?
Who fucking cares?
That's fair.
That's the answer. Because the thing is, you could argue it's science fiction, argue science fantasy or space opera or whatever you want to say, but like ultimately it doesn't really matter, and that's kind of the issue with genre. Like, I can't really think of people who are like. Oh, actually, maybe this isn't true. But what I was going to say was, I don't think many people are like necessarily consumers of a genre for the sake of consuming that genre.
Yeah, like, no, I mean, like,
I think most people have a range of taste, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, there's obviously like bad, like fantasy or sci-fi. Well, I mean, talk to any Star Trek fan, they'll tell you which is their favorite series and which ones are just absolute dog shit. You know? Like,
yeah. The correct answer is the original series or the next gen.
Actually, no. Deep Space Nine is my favorite.
I don't mind Deep Space Nine, but this isn't a Star Trek ranking video.
But this sort of proves the point. Is that it's like no, people won't go out of their way to watch every sci-fi or fantasy movie just because it's sci-fi or fantasy. Right?
I suppose there are people who have their preferences when it comes to genre, or that you have things that intrigue you about certain things.
Yeah, for sure. Like, but that doesn't mean you have to enjoy every
I'll admit right now, I will. So there you go. Imposter Professor Oak says Deep Space Nine. And look. You're far from the only person who thinks Deep Space Nine is the best. I haven't seen it for about 10 years. Maybe it's worth a rewatch. Yes, Adored Pariah is entirely correct. Enterprise.
Okay, fair enough.
So what was I saying about? Yeah, so I think, God, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because the question about genre is so kind of nebulous to me. Like, there's definitely things that intrigue me about. So, like, if I'm cycling through Netflix or whatever, there's definitely certain genres that I will be drawn towards more than others.
Yeah.
But it's not. I don't know. It's interesting. I'm not sure about that one. I don't know thing to say about that. All I know is if it says it's a Cold War thriller, I will most likely watch that.
Fair enough.
But,
okay, that's fair.
Because I don't know, that's just one of my things. And I like sci-fi, fantasy, all the rest of it. But then again, I don't know. We're getting lost in the weeds with genre, I think. We've not even read the entire genre section yet. So he says, genre is something to help you something to help librarians shelve books.
Now, see, sorry, I don't want to stop every line, but like that's sort of proving the point, right? That it exists purely to categorize things. It's not a prescriptive thing, right? Something to help librarians shelve books is like that means that it's something that's applied to media as opposed to it.
I suppose what I would say. Right, I suppose what I would say, trying to solidify my round.
Yeah.
So you could have a book that's say a fantasy book, fantasy adventure,
Yeah.
But that could also have a love story within it. Again, not to keep going on about it, but Star Wars, right? So Empire Strikes Back, it has a large romantic contingent to the plot, between Han and Leia, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of those tropes are very deliberately playing on, kind of screwball comedies, romantic comedies, kind of the kind of banter back and forth, and they have the will they won't they and all that kind of stuff. But you wouldn't necessarily categorize Star Wars as a romance, would you? So,
well, no, absolutely. Yeah.
But it has those tropes within it, and it's very deliberately referenced those tropes. So, could you say Star Wars is a romance? I don't know. Like, you could say that a subplot of Star Wars is a romance. Do you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like...
no, for sure. It's like genre is a broad thing, but it's sort of, you can't really... It's not consistent or prescriptive enough for it to really...
Yeah, and like you could say Avatar: The Last Fantasy, but then Game of Thrones is also fantasy.
Yeah,
and they're very different tonally. Tone is actually something that Smudboy doesn't get a lot, which I think is something that kind of weakens his arguments here.
Oh, so he doesn't go into tone at all?
I think he goes into it later on, if I'm remembering, in later chapters, but not to the extent that makes a lot of sense, right?
Okay.
But anyway, so something to help. So genre is something. Books is also something to save time for people buying books. I think we've covered that. Yeah, something to tell moviegoers what to watch and not. So the food metaphor here is a loose contract between creator and client, a restaurant diner and chef. So I think when he says restaurant diner, he means like because I got confused there because I was picturing like an American diner.
Oh, I see what you... Yes, like a customer in a restaurant, right? Okay, so I guess we're talking about so loose contract between... Okay, I guess that makes sense. That if you order a steak, you want a steak. You want a steak, but again, like movies and stories aren't food. I mean,
no. I mean, again, Smudge struggles with metaphors. I'll say that. I mean, as we know, he doesn't think Nightmare on Elm Street subtext. So
that's true,
subtext and metaphor are difficult for Smud.
Okay.
I'll say that. Anyway, he goes on to subgenre. Hierarchical, categorized, historically evidenced expectations, which seems to just be the same as genre in that sense, I suppose. But but people know what we mean when we say subgenre.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't need to go too much into that, I suppose. A franchise, oh gosh, how do you say that? Instantiated, hierarchical, categorized, historically evidenced expectations.
But
when a story is so...
As a genre?
Yeah. He goes on, though. When a story is so big, has so many instances, that it becomes its own genre. So he says, e.g. Star Wars, James Bond, Harry Potter, etc. He then goes on to compare that to McDonald's Big Mac, Burger King's Whopper, or Dairy Queen's Blizzard, etc.
Okay, I don't think we have Dairy Queen here, so obviously we can't really talk about what.
I think the Dairy Queen Blizzard is like, and maybe the chat can correct me if I'm wrong here, like an ice creamy sort of milkshakey thing. Like I think it's a drink, maybe, but not entirely.
It looks like it's just like some kind of. Is it like a Ben and Jerry's-esque kind of thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
But we know what a Big Mac is and what a Whopper is.
They're burgers. Yeah. So I guess. Well, now I think that's very interesting that he's defining a franchise as just a more specific genre, because surely a franchise would be within a genre most of the time anyway. And
yes.
Like, we'll take the MCU as an example. Like, each one of those movies is generally sort of like sci-fi action, but also like it can be other genres. Like the Captain America movies are a lot of the time are sort of espionage, kind of spy thrillers a lot of the time.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
and like the Thor movies are more sort of fantasy-ish, and so I mean, like they can be different. But I guess it's like sort of what's the difference between a franchise and a genre in that case?
Yeah, I mean, I think what he's trying to say... what am I saying? What he's trying to say. But I think he's trying to kind of say, like, if there are enough instances of a story, like, it kind of takes on tropes of its own, which, so, like, James Bond is a very obvious example of this. There's a lot of tropes that are specific to Bond that are apart from the spy genre. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like, whilst the spies, I guess what you could say in a meta sense, like you could do a parody of James Bond specifically that was not a parody of the spy genre as a whole.
Right. Yeah.
There are
I get it.
tropes that you can solidify from James Bond. But I don't really. I mean, people in the chat are kind of talking about like it's weird to write with the idea of creating a franchise, which I agree. I don't really know how franchising is relevant to storytelling in this sense, I suppose.
Well, I guess because like the only stories that he ever consumes tend to be stuff like Star Wars, superhero movies, like massive AAA video games. So like in his mind, franchises must be a huge part of storytelling.
And I think I want to kind of clarify my position on franchise. People who consume franchises and stuff like that, like I think it's fine, but also like if you're just into the most mainstream stuff, I think that's fine. I think you're limiting yourself, especially if you're a writer, if all you consume is the most mainstream stuff possible. But it's an interesting one, really. It's kind of, unless you're coming into a franchise as a new writer and you're having to write a new installment, I don't really know why the franchise element is relevant to storytelling at its core. But, as you say, I think he mostly consumes... I mean, his examples here are quite basic, right? It's Star Wars, Bond, Potter. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with Star Wars or James Bond.
No.
He said, leaving a meaningful pause.
Yeah.
Although I probably should clarify, there's quite a lot wrong with James Bond, right?
There's a lot wrong with Star Wars as well. I mean, I mean, James Bond specifically is just pretty much always has been pretty terrible and misogynistic for like a long time. And Star Wars, I'm sure you could sort of levy a few criticisms of them. They're old movies. They probably have a lot of like.
There's definitely some. There's definitely some spicy moments in the older Star Wars films. They generally age pretty well, but there is one bit that stood out to me the last time I watched Han. I think we've had enough female advice, which.
Whoa! Okay.
Yeah, which is like, okay. I mean, you could argue like, well, Han's kind of supposed to be a prick, right? So it's not treated as he's right, but it's also like, it's one of those lines that they wouldn't now, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, it's very like of the 80s, So.
Yeah. Well, the New Hope would have been late 70s.
No, but was it in New Hope? I thought.
Yeah, it was in New Hope.
Oh, it was New Hope. Okay, fair enough then. Yeah, late 70s.
And obviously, there's aspects of the. Ace Wizard, yes, we're still in the glossary.
Yes, we are still in the glossary. We're going to finish the glossary and then we're going to end the stream because if
we've got a couple of pages.
It's going to be late.
Well, we've got like about a page. Well, first of all, Matt, if we did finish the glossary today, we wouldn't be moving on to chapter 1. We'd be moving on to preface : why do we read?
Oh, okay. My mistake.
But yes. So yeah, this is a book that technically has 2 prefaces, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
But yeah, so to be clear, if we do cover more Chud's book, I will try and yes, Ace Wizard, I agree, Jesus, but I will try and condense it if possible. I think as well, like the main chapters we'd probably get through more quicker, if you know what I mean, because like they're less dense with fuckery.
Yeah,
like there's still a lot of fuckery. But,
No, to be fair, the point of a glossary is to make everything as dense as possible, right? So I guess this is probably going to be the longest episode, I imagine.
Yes, and it's in a way it's a staggering work, really, this. But yes, let's power on. Let's try and end this today.
Yeah, okay.
Chapter : we've got Flat Moon Truther, which is a great name. I haven't read books. Is it normal now to put the glossary at the beginning? No. Generally, a glossary would go towards the back of the book, in my experience. Although, sometimes you might have, like, kind of a preface where you'd have, like, key terms that are going to be used throughout the book, which I guess you could call as a glossary. But
I get why he's made the decision, because I guess the point of this is it's aimed at very, very sort of first-time writers and creators, I guess. So it's sort of he does, like, who might not necessarily be as aware of like these ideas as a normal person, or as like a more experienced person. So maybe he's just trying to get across. But again, like, he is explaining very, very like what common and well known terms in very weird ways. So I don't really know what to say about that.
The egg, the egg. Chapter : that's not a new chapter we're starting. This is a new section. Chapter.
Okay. Yeah.
So chapter : a scenario in a story with two components, and this is where we get really into the weeds here, because he starts describing this as if it's a recipe. So he says a scenario in a story with two components: one part expression of plot,
right.
Half characterization, and/or half character flaws being attacked. If a chapter does not have these two things, it's fluff.
Okay, right. So, I mean, we don't really have much to say of that, apart from the fact that it's not a very good recipe. I guess unless maybe it's like a cocktail. But, I mean, I don't know, one part and then one half, and like one half of what? You know, like, I mean...
Yeah, I don't know why.
Recipe you have like measurements of things, like one part of this half of what characterization, you know? So it's just a bad recipe.
I'm not entirely. I mean, if the chat is looking at the document on screen, like, I'm not entirely sure I've even read this correctly because it's so bizarrely formatted.
That's fair. Yeah, it is very very strange.
So basically, what he's saying is like a chapter needs to contain expression of plot, whatever that's supposed to mean, kind of deepen the characterization, and character flaws being attacked. Ace was saying that was three components, but he's saying no, that is three components. Yeah, no, I was going to defend Smudboy there and say, but he's saying half characterization or half character flaws being attacked. But no, that is three separate things. Yeah,
they are separate components.
And I like the fact that he does actually say characterization and/or character flaws being attacked.
So if it had just said "or," that would have been two components then. But yeah,
so it doesn't really make sense. But if your chapter doesn't have those two things, as Smudboy says, it's fluff. And helpfully he goes on to describe fluff coming up next. Fluff, : unnecessary filler material. Has nothing to do with the main character's plot or pointless world building. And then just the word pointless on its own. So it reads like this: pointless world building, pointless.
Okay, so it's sort of is he referencing the Richard Osman television show here? Do you think is that what he's going for?
I don't know. Possibly.
Is he comparing it to just say Fluff? You know what Fluff is? Fluff is like Richard Osman and Alexander Armstrong on a game show.
Trying to get the most obscure answer possible. Yeah, I mean, the show Pointless is the very definition of fluff, and so he's onto something there. I don't know if they have Pointless in Canada though. I do like that he's written that section as though he's a Frank Miller character, because he's like pointless world building, pointless. You know, like repetitious.
Yeah, no, that is great. Yeah,
we're back to the food metaphors though.
Oh, that's good.
It says good. Flavorless ingredients best left outside the bowl and the entire meal.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. I feel like that would have been good with a specific example. You know, maybe like don't put I don't know, chocolate in your omelette. Yeah,
don't put. Well, but chocolate's not flavorless, though, is it? So
yeah.
I think the issue is that like you need a flavorless ingredient.
Don't put flour in your omelette. Although I guess you could. Is that a thing? Putting flour in eggs?
Yeah, I mean.
I guess that's pancakes then, isn't it? If it's just flour and eggs, right?
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't really make any sense. I'm also like, why would you get your flavour as
like?
But bear in mind, the bowl is also part of the plot, right? So he's saying
that's true. That the bowl probably doesn't have any flavour unless, like, I don't know, does glass have much flavour? Pain.
Flavour of pain. Sounds like a Nine Inch Nails song. We'll move on. World building, : the detailing of the story universe through characterization or plot development. I mean, that is actually fairly solid. Right?
Yeah, no, I don't have any problems with that, to be fair.
Oh, shout out to Adored Prior again. I thought it was okay until the last 20 minutes. Actually, I thought it was really good until the. So you can take that as you will. Really liked Midsommar by the same director. Anyway, Chekhov's gun, ensuring...
Okay.
Yes, so Chekhov's gun. Now, before I get into this section, are we familiar with the term Chekhov's gun?
Well, I'm just for people who aren't. Basically, Chekhov's gun is it's really weird because it's a trope that's being mentioned for essentially no reason. But basically, Chekhov's gun means if you mention specifically that there's a gun at the beginning of the story, by the end of the story it has to be used. Otherwise, like there's no point in having it there. It's setup and payoff, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, so the quote that's often... Well, I say quote. The phrase that's often... If you introduce a gun in the first act, go off in the third act.
Yeah.
So it tends to be an object or plot device that... so actually, a good example, since somebody mentioned Game of... In Season 1 of Game of Thrones, the the dragon egg would count as a Chekhov's gun, right? Because if you introduce unhatched dragon's eggs in the first episode, you best believe they're going to hatch by the end of the season, right? Like, yeah, because that's a fairly simple example.
Yeah, there'd be absolutely no point in just having dragon eggs and them not hatched. Because it's like, why even bother having them in the story?
Yeah,
it's basically
yeah.
like not wasting time and sort of making sure everything has a... But I guess Edgar Wright is very good at this with the setup and payoff. Like,
yes, I mean, he's kind of the master of this in terms of modern cinema, I guess.
Yes, I mean, I guess like a film everyone will know is like Hot Fuzz. Like everything that happens in the first half of the film like has a payoff or callback in the second half of the film.
Yeah. So that's our definition of Chekhov's gun. Let's get into Smud's. Chekhov's gun, ensuring everything that is set up has a payoff. So we agree there, kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, he's kind of saying everything that is set up having a payoff. So like he's treating Chekhov's gun as like a universal law of story, right? Yes, which it isn't really. It's more of a trope, as you say.
Yeah, it's more of an expectation. Like it's not necessary, but if it didn't happen, you'd be like, "What the fuck? Like why bother doing that?" But at the same time, it's not necessary. I guess a good example of this is in Heroes, the old TV show, season 2, where they ran out of money and the writers went on strike. So they left one character in like a dystopian future and then completely forgot about her. That would be Chekhov's gun. Is like if you trap a character in like a dystopian future, like you better go back for them. Otherwise, people are going to be like, "What the fuck? Why didn't you go back?"
Yeah, I suppose that's Chekhov's gun. Yeah, extrapolated to a lore.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, Smud goes on to say, so he says, ensuring that payoff, and then he says, an benign element, so grammatical error, destroyed by facts and logic there.
Yeah.
A benign element in a story that will ultimately be used. So we kind of agree sort of on his definition there. We're just kind of quibbling over his application of it, I suppose. Yeah. However, he goes on to give us a food metaphor, thank God. He's playing the hits. And he says, the chef buying and using only the dish was ordered.
Okay, so immediately he's never worked in a kitchen, and he has no idea how professional kitchens work. Because, like, if you're in a kitchen, you don't go out and buy ingredients for one dish when it's ordered, bring them back to the kitchen, cook them, and then wait for the next ticket to come in and then go out and buy more. Like, chefs don't do that. Restaurants have, like, massive, like, walk-in fridges and freezers with loads of ingredients that they don't necessarily have to use, but they do.
But they have them, so in case they need... Because that's the thing that is different fundamentally about being a restaurant chef, say, and being an author, is that a restaurant chef makes food to order, right?
Yeah.
Whereas a writer basically pleases themselves within reason.
Yeah, I mean...
So,
I mean, don't get me wrong, like, there are like expectations, I guess, placed on some writers.
Yeah, of course. And, like, I mean, most writers kind of want to write appeal to a general audience, right? Like, you want to... you want to write something that most people... entertaining or will be able to follow at the least, right? Like, there's expectations put on a writer, but I mean, I think this is the key issue with the chef metaphor, right? Is that it just doesn't work.
It doesn't work at all.
Yeah. Although I got to say, I think Adored Pariah in the Smud, because she actually put. Oh, sorry, they actually put. I don't know why I said she there. Don't know who they are. They actually put the idea of no wasted scenes or words, everything is used, etc. So that is pretty much what Smud is saying. So for what it's worth, Adored Pariah, you're starting to think like Smudboy, and that should worry you.
I do also like that they said Chekhov's gun, the salami hanging in the walk-in, which...
Yeah, I think that works. Because, well, I suppose that would work if you went in through the walk-in, the salami was there, and later you ordered the salami.
No, so I guess if in this case it would have to be in a film you walk into the walk-in and there's a very specific close-up of the salami with dramatic music in the background. It's like, oh, the salami is going to come back into it later on.
Yeah, exactly. It's yeah. I mean, the more he uses the chef metaphors, the more baffling they become, frankly. Although again, I'm enjoying that it's becoming a bit of. Yeah, right, Fox. I've actually seen that Lindsay Ellis video. I stopped watching Game of Thrones at about season 5 because, life's too short. But
that's when it stopped being good. That's
yeah. And Lindsay Ellis's analysis was interesting. Obviously, not having seen the last few seasons, I can't go into whether I agree or disagree. But yeah, yes, Adored Pariah, and then later Bam's. Yeah, that would be what would happen in a John Wick.
Yeah, isn't that like one of those things where it's like the perfect murder? It's like you kill someone with like a frozen bit of meat and then eat it. So there's no murder weapon. Supposedly,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, I just thought another good example of pencil. But anyway, so he goes on to. We're nearly at the end of this glossary, so just hang in there. We're nearly there. The finish line is in sight.
Okay.
So the next section after Chekhov's gun. Logos, or logos, colon, the logical, rational part of an argument.
Oh god, right, he's going to proper, okay, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, got logos, pathos, and ethos, okay, right.
Yep. I don't know why that's relevant.
Like, why is he talking about arguments?
I don't know. Well, to be fair, at the start of the glossary, if we go back to page 1, he does say, before starting an argument, it is imperative to... So, he's just defining terms, I guess. Where have I gone? I've scrolled back to the start. Here we go. So yeah, logos, the logical, rational part of an argument. He then goes on to say pathos, the dramatic, emotional part of an argument. So pathos is a word you'll often hear used in story analysis.
Yeah.
I don't know why he's using it as part of an argument thing. I don't know, but powering on ethos, colon, the credible contextual part of an argument. In the egg food analogy.
Yeah.
By the way, that's not egg/food. He just in the egg food analogy.
Egg food.
The egg food analogy.
It's like when you buy that fake burger cheese, where in the UK you're not legally allowed to call it cheese because it doesn't have enough actual cheese in it. So it's just called food slices or something.
Yeah.
So it's
cheese
egg food.
Slice. In the egg food analogy, you just reminded me. This is another henchbrain 666 tangent. But where I used to live in the beautiful city of London, there was a frozen food shop called Legal Foods. Just Legal Foods. And that always makes me laugh because it's like, well, the fact that you said that makes me think that the food is not legal. But anyway, in the egg food analogy, the goal is to try and eliminate the preconception. The white part of the egg.
Right, okay. So we're bringing it back to his...
Sorry, I've confused myself. I've confused myself. This sentence has confused me. Let me start that again. Okay. In the egg fruit analogy, the goal is to try and eliminate the preconception of theme, the white part of the egg, or at least blend the yolk into the white appropriately.
Right.
So the yolk is the climax, right? Because we discussed this earlier.
Oh, the climax. Fucking hell. Hang on, so it's to blend... Oh, God. Oh, no, I know. Is he talking... He's basically just talking about the fucking... throne room scene in fucking Last Jedi, isn't he?
You'll have to expand on that because I'm still thinking about.
Okay, right. So, like, my opinion on this is that basically a lot of people really hate the throne room scene in Star Wars Last Jedi, and I think it doesn't have anything to do with anything, and it's really badly made and everything like that. And
yes,
I think throughout this, what I've noticed is that a lot of his criticism seem to be sort of very thinly veiled descriptions of films he doesn't like. So I think sort of at least okay, not necessarily the throne room is, but like the movie as a whole, like they do tend to go on about how the theme and the tone don't necessarily match the story and the plot and everything like that, and that's why they don't like it, not because there's a woman in it and a black
right, yeah, yeah, okay, sure. I mean, I'm not entirely sure what he means by the goal is conception of theme. In fact, I have absolutely no idea what that.
I think he's supposed to be like, don't make it too obvious, maybe, because like again,
right.
like I think
so he's saying kind of
because like these people, like they really don't like politics and like themes that they disagree with appearing.
And how is that the ethos then? Because the ethos he's defining as, the credible the credible contextual part of an argument. Surely that is what the theme is, right? It is the context. But I don't know. I mean, we're getting to the point where he's blending the white part of the egg in with the yolk. The yolk is the climax, the white is the theme. What are we talking about?
Oh, I think he's sort of forgotten the like which part of the egg means what. I think he's just trying to say, like, with the theme, like blend it with the plot so that like it can be easily ignored, because he doesn't like it when leftist politics are forced into Star Wars SJWs
right.
I think.
Just before we do struggle on to the end of this, because ethos is the last option, I'm sure everyone's relieved to know. Do we think it would be better if he had used specific examples? Like if he'd gone... Do you think if he'd said, like, oh, the throne room in The Last Jedi doesn't work because blah, 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 right?
See,
do you think it'd be better if he used more specific examples? Or do you think it's...
I think it would be good if he had used specific examples, but I get why he hasn't, because if he does, people, can disagree with him and say, well, actually, I thought that was good, so you're talking shit. If, like, you have to start from the preconception that something is bad and not that many people agree with you, other than sort of weird people on the internet.
Yeah. I mean, but then, but the thing that bakes my noodle about all, if he's saying that his analysis here is objective, surely his film opinions, if they're filtered through the lens of objectivity, are also.
Oh so, yeah, but I don't know. Yeah, I guess he would necessarily have to either not believe that, or he would have to believe it, and then he wouldn't have a reason not to. So I
think chat's agreeing with me that he should have used.
Yeah, I agree. He should have used specific examples. I was just sort of thinking why he wouldn't.
No, mate, I destroyed you with facts and logic again.
Okay, fair enough. I've been owned in the free marketplace of ideas. You
came up against the henchest brain of all time, and I bodied you, mate. Only then can we achieve a sorry, I've done that thing again where I've just slid back into the paragraph.
That's fair. No, feel free. Go for it. I like it.
So to be clear, at least so we're blending the white of theme into the yolk of climax, and only then can we achieve a focus on plot and character growth in our stories. Only then will the theme be considered organically. So at least the eggs are organic, right?
That's
only
true,
then.
Yeah,
only then. Sorry.
I hope
this is a staggering sequence of sentences. I think I need to start again here. In the egg food analogy, the goal is to try and eliminate the theme, the white part of the egg, or at least blend the yolk into the white appropriately. Only then can we achieve a focus on plot and character growth in our stories. Only then will the theme be considered organically. Only then is the paper ready for the ink, and a story can be born. So, presumably the story is being laid out of a chicken's bits. Better still, this book should help you start making your eggs without egg whites in the first.
So,
I mean, do we want to talk about that?
Yeah, I think we do. Like, what's what? I mean, why don't? I mean, I guess that like some people don't like egg whites. That's fine, but I guess it depends what eggs you're making. Like, you know, if you're making an omelette, it's gonna be pretty fucking difficult to make it exclusively with yolks. I mean, I guess maybe it's just one of those people who sort of only eats the yolk in a full English breakfast, maybe. But like, if you're making an egg without most of the egg, how is that an egg at that point?
Oh god! Oh, this book is my supervillain origin story. Better still, this. Right, what are we talking about? What are we talking about? Better still, this book should help you start making your egg without egg white. Which so I just want to point out again some more grammatical errors here, because he has that sentence, better still, this book should help you start making your eggs without. Yeah. Full stop, which may imply to eliminate the theme. So that should be one sentence, right? But
yeah. Okay.
Which may imply, I mean, in fairness to Smud, he's clearly someone who's more. I was going to say he's more used to writing YouTube scripts, but he's mostly a streamer, isn't he? So that.
He's mostly a streamer, and I think the videos he does make that aren't streamed aren't scripted. At least the way it does seem that he just switches on his mic and then says, "Haha! Look, there's a black woman in a video game, and that makes me very upset because of the wokeness or something."
Yeah. The two genders, white and woke. Which may imply to eliminate the theme, but the goal. I mean, that is exactly what it implies, right?
Yes.
So, which may imply to eliminate the theme, but the goal is to make the theme of a story focus on plot, so there is no room for mindless fluff.
How does the theme focus on a plot? That means there's no theme, right?
I mean, I don't know. Is the theme sentient now? Are we? What are we doing?
The goal is to make the theme of a story focus on plot, but that doesn't mean anything because the theme is like an idea, right? Or like an ideology or something like that. But it's like...
Can I just say I share Riot Fox's rate that he says a story can be born rather than a story can be hatched.
That's true. Correct. Oh god, yeah, that's true. He doesn't say it can be hatched.
Yeah, this is okay. So, which may imply to eliminate the theme, but the goal is to make the theme of a story focus on plot, so there is no room for mindless fluff. Not at all sure what that means. I don't know how a theme focuses on a plot. I don't know. I just don't know.
And also, how would that mean that there's no room for mindless fluff, unless he's like saying that theme is mindless fluff?
Well, because if you blend the white into the yolk, the fluff evaporates, because you've got the heat of the water and the oil, both of which are brand named. So that's eliminating the fluff, right? It's like evaporating the.
But but how's fluff getting in there in the first place? And like, why wasn't fluff like?
Remember that fluff is not metaphorical. Fluff is unnecessary filler material. That's his definition of fluff.
Right, so it's just like
what he's saying is
cutting open a cushion and just like emptying fluff into his frying pan.
Yeah, we're getting confused when he says fluff. So what he's saying is, what is he saying? Let's break this down. He says, okay, so the book's going to help you start making your eggs, and bear in mind, eggs are not stories, right? Because story is everything in the bowl, including the bowl itself.
But to be fair, there was an egg in the bowl.
There was an egg in the bowl, but earlier on he was talking about the story as an egg dish.
I mean, to be fair, it started out with fucking a creature with two spines. So I mean, I don't think he's being very consistent with his metaphors.
Is the creature with two spines what's laid the egg?
The beast with two backs. Oh god, is he saying that stories are basically just sex?
I mean, it's possible. It's possible.
Okay.
All things go back to that, I suppose, on some level, if you're a analyst. I mean, okay, so listen, we've got the two last paragraphs of the glossary, one of which is only a sentence long. But I feel like I need to back up final half page, right? Yeah. So, better still, this book should help you start making your eggs without eggs in the first place, which may imply to eliminate the theme. But the goal is to make the theme of a story focus on plot, so there is no room for mindless fluff.
Yeah.
Which means the focus of writing is meaning. Which, interesting, because we've divined absolutely no meaning from this. Writing and going to a restaurant are similar, in that the restaurant only serves one fixed price menu. He actually includes the French term prix. I don't know how you pronounce that, but only serves one fixed price menu. Everything is notoriety and hype. This book hopes to achieve what got your audience in the door is everything expected and more.
But surely the point shouldn't be to, like... I don't know. I mean, like, surely he's sort of presupposing that people are buying a book in the first place, rather than, like, focusing on making a good story, or, like, focusing on making a story that people will like. It's just sort of... Hey, we've already started from the position of this book is very popular.
Yes.
Let's make it, like, sure...
Also, I'm not really sure what he means by writing similar, in that the restaurant only serves one fixed price menu.
Yeah.
Surely he means reading and going to a restaurant are similar. Because if you're going to a restaurant, you're the consumer.
Yes,
that's true. Not the preparer of the meal.
Yeah, that's true, actually, yeah, because you'd be... Because writing... I guess writing and being a chef is the same, but reading and being a diner are...
Well, as we know, writing and being a writer's study is the chef's kitchen. We know this. We do know this. Matt, we cannot get confused. We know that's in the bank. We know that.
Okay.
That is writing advice that you can put a hat on. You can hang a hat on that. You can set your watch to that. That is perfect. He then goes on to say, though, everything is notoriety, which I don't really know what he means by that.
Everything is notoriety and hype. I mean, like, if everything is notoriety and hype, then why not just, like, make the Human Centipede? Because, like, that was notorious, but it wasn't good, and it wasn't, like, something that probably should exist. But if the goal is exclusively to make something notorious, then just, like...
and does that really work for... Good. Does it work for a restaurant? I suppose it does, because...
Hype, I
guess, a restaurant wants to kind of gain its... Yeah, no, I think he's using notoriety in the sense of, like, being a notable, rather than, like, you are notorious in that sense.
Oh, right, okay.
Which, to be fair, is a valid use of the word. I won't.
Okay, that's fine.
I won't kick him around town for that.
Okay.
But essentially, he's saying everything is hype. So, why use one word when you can use three?
Fair enough.
So, So, I mean, again, this last paragraph, I just need to read it again because writing and going to a restaurant are similar in that the restaurant only serves a price menu. Yeah. So. We think he means reading and going to a restaurant are similar.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's consuming, and also by the time you're consuming a story, it's already... So, in that sense, it's a fixed price menu. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Everything is notoriety and hype. Not sure what that means in the terms of structural analysis of how stories work.
Yeah. It's very
because... I mean, I suppose his arguments about genre are kind of feed into this, maybe, where it's the purpose of genre is that it tells people what not to consume and what to consume. So I suppose he's talking about, like, you need to fit into... Well, I don't know. I mean,
you need to conform.
I'm trying not to use my knowledge of the rest of the book to colour my analysis of this chapter.
Okay,
like,
I see. It goes into a lot more depth, does it?
No. But I know that... Okay. Well, depth is one way of putting it. It's just like, I know he has very strict ideas on, like, what a certain genre story should be, what, he has this idea of, like, if you're writing something, you should be like, I want to write a mystery, I want to write a horror story. Which, to some degree, I guess is true. It's a starting point, but it's a very restrictive way of looking at... It's writing purely for consumption rather than for artistic expression, right?
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. Yeah.
So Riot Fox actually does say in the chat there, screw making art for self-expression, only consume. Yeah, so it's a very consumerist idea of what art is, I suppose. But anyway, with that sentence, this book hopes to achieve what got your audience that more. Some grammatical issues with that sentence, but that is the end of the glossary.
Oh my god, I'm excited. Oh, I've messed that up. Okay. Oh yes. Next page is preface. Why do we read? We're not going to get into that, obviously.
We simply don't have time. We were planning to go through and some of chapter 1 today, but yeah, unfortunately the glossary was dense.
It was
dense like an omelette.
Excellent. I love it.
Excellent. Yeah, nice.
Excellent.
Excellent. Well, yeah. Can I say then? This book hopes to achieve what everything they expected, and
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, the next chapter, I suppose, is preface. Why do we read? And I have read ahead, as you know. He has some thoughts on the nature of reading.
Oh, that's exciting! I'm actually interested to get into like his philosophy of like the purpose of fiction and. So I guess my final thoughts on like the final bit of that is I guess it does seem a lot more to do with sort of consumerism and kind of conformity as opposed to creativity when it comes to art.
Yes,
which is a very specific way of looking at art, which to be fair is the way I was taught because I did do a film degree, but that was more with a focus on like trying to get people to like go into like the film industry and sort of things. But it does sort of annoy me that it's just sort of like the purpose of creating art isn't to create good art or to have like the personal satisfaction of it, but to sell it or to conform to whatever you think that people might like, which is quite depressing.
Yeah. Which, you know, it's interesting because like he can't seem to conceive any other reason to write than like your own profile, your own notoriety, having people like, or the commercial aspect, I suppose. But the thing is, he doesn't really talk about the commercial aspect that much. He kind of talks about it in terms of like what an audience expects, you know, what an audience wants. Yeah. And certainly that's a consideration. But it kind of comes back to his critique Jedi of Last of Us 2, right? Where he's kind of talking about like it didn't give the audience what they wanted, quote unquote, subverted their expectations.
Yeah.
So, you know, he's views that as a negative because it goes against the expectations of the franchise and the genre.
Yeah.
Again, if people do want to dig into his mind and his own work, Jack Saint, I keep mentioning it, but the Jack Saint discussion does go into this a little bit, and Jack does challenge him on it a little bit, and it's an interesting discussion. Jack actually says at the end that he think he's won Smudboy round in any way, and he definitely hasn't by this point. I think they've blocked each other on Twitter, I think.
Well, I think the 50 videos about Abby from The Last of Us 2, or however many it was, might be in 30, I can't remember exactly how many, but...
Yeah, and the Smudcast did a whole stream dissing Patricia Tack.
Well, of course they did. They're just
objective analysis. I mean... Yeah, so it's kind of... and they're quite... and this is something that I do want to flag up about Smudcast contributors. To my knowledge, less so Smudboy himself, but some of the others. Rife with a little bit of transphobia, rife with some dodgy ideas about people. So I'm like, this is the thing. This is why I won't cover like, even if I do know that literature working on his comic book that he's crowdfunding at the moment. I want to say like I'm never gonna cover his stuff because I just find him to be an unpleasant person. Like the point of this is not for. You know, the point that isn't the point of CHUD Book Club, all right? CHUD Book Club is a cozy little thing where we just make some silly people, you know?
It's not about... I think that's a good... Like, we don't want to get into, like fucking, like, Nazis who've written books or anything, you know? We're not going to read, like, Richard Spencer's book on stream or anything like that.
No, and, like, there's certainly books... Ben Shapiro has some great
I heard Dave Rubin's one is particularly bad as well.
Yeah, I've not delved into Dave Rubin's one. Again, these people, I'm kind of like, if you want analysis of people like that, sheep in the box. You know what I'm saying? He's there holding shit down about that. For me, I'm more just kind of like, I want to kind of, and this is why, like, at some point, I do want to cover, you know, Bob Chipman's book, for example.
Yeah,
is like it's not necessarily about digging into the. I'm trying to find a way to word this because I don't want to be like it's not about politics because it can be like if politics becomes relevant, you know. And like I think it's fair to say we're both comfortably to the left of Smudboy.
I'd say that's a fair assessment. Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of want to like say Smudboy is not as disrespectful of others as say Lit Devil and people like that.
Yeah. See, the thing is, I think Smudboy is sort of an ignorant, sort of. I don't know if I'd necessarily call him an idiot, but like he's not like an actively awful human being. He's just a bit of an ignorant idiot. In my opinion.
He's. I would say dope rather than like I think dope is a little softer, you know.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough.
Yeah, and I think like to me it's like because like this is one of those things I don't want to just be calling people idiots all the time. It's a bit mean spirited, but like I kind of want to say, you know. What I find amusing about people like Smudboy is, as I was saying earlier, it's the arrogance, you know. It's the folly of, I know how to write a story better than anyone else, you know.
Yeah, no, and I think the thing is that, like, with these, I think we are probably going to buy them, or at least one of us is. So it's sort of like, we don't want to necessarily cover, like, genuinely awful people because we don't want to give them money. But, like...
Yeah, that is another thing as well. So, like, one book that I definitely thought about covering at some point was, I don't know if you're familiar, Jordan Peterson's Maps of Meaning.
Oh, I've heard of it, yeah.
It is even more baffling and labyrinthine than book. It's quite something. But again, I don't really want to give money to people like that. I mean, we were on the fence about doing this to give money to Smud, really, but like, you know, I don't think his books are selling by the millions, and he's not using his money to do anything hateful. He's just, you know, a person who exists in the world.
Yeah, I think with I mean, you could certainly make an argument either way, but I think the thing with Subway is that like just like I don't think he's doing like so well as to, like for that we're sort of contributing towards this massive media empire. I mean, he's got like we showed at the beginning. I mean, he's got like 21,000 subscribers, but he regularly gets less views than me on some of my stuff, he does sort of and his, like for example, I make more money on Patreon than him, and I don't make much money on Patreon. And according to
sorry, I just want to interject. I think I might have I think I might have expressed myself badly there a minute. Adored Pariah says I think meaning to discuss the political leanings of these people. It requires a deft hand to properly disarm the full CHUD Nazis. Yeah, I just want to say, like, it's not that I don't think there's a need to discuss that. I don't think that I'm particularly equipped to do that as eloquently as some other people are. So, like, I want to, like, obviously, Sheep in the Box is very eloquent and very good at what he does in that regard. I'm more just a cheeky little chappy on the side who's like, did you know this dickhead wrote a book? You know, that's my vibe.
Yeah, I think, I mean, if you do search for a lot of these things, there are things out there. Like, I think Hannah and Jake, I don't know if you know of them, they're sort of leftists, and they did or they're currently doing a breakdown of Dave Rubin's book in a sort of chapter by chapter sort of way. So if that's what
you want, that's I know that the podcast Behind the Bastards, run by Robert Evans, has covered Ben Shapiro's book, if you are into that sort of thing.
Yeah, so like there are things out there. It's just probably we won't do any of the like major figures.
Yeah, exactly. Adored Pariah. Yeah, if we were going to do it. Be careful about it.
Yeah.
But to me, I more want to like, you know, it's more about for me the fascination with YouTubers who these pamphlets, as I call them. You know, I'm always interested in the transition.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of YouTubers decide to make terrible films, but somehow even more of them make terrible books.
Yeah, some of the films that have come out of YouTube quite something.
Like the
Has
Fred
anyone
movie,
seen? Yeah, I was going to say the Fred movie is. It's really, you talk about folly. That is. I don't know who gave that money. I don't know why that exists.
Yeah, didn't like Logan Paul make a movie that was basically just Airplane but shit?
Yes, I've seen it. It's
Is it actually,
bad.
Yeah, I imagine it.
Yeah, it's very bad. It is about 90 minutes, if that, of just jokeless humor. I mean, it's, you know, the Paul brothers. I don't want to get too bitchy on the stream, but like I don't get them. I don't know why they're popular.
That's fair. I think that's pretty reasonable. I don't think most people over the age of like 12 really get it.
Yeah, certainly not someone who's advancing towards 30 at a more rapid rate than they'd like.
Okay, fair enough.
You know, I'm not the target audience. But also they're shit. Objectively. So before we end the stream, Matt, because I realise we've been going a little bit wanted to.
Yeah.
I guess I just want to get your kind of... I want to check your vibe on this. If I'm using that term correctly.
This definitely seems like a lot of fun. It seems like he doesn't know what he's talking about, but he really, really wants to be taken seriously, which is the best kind of literature, in my opinion. People who have absolutely no fucking clue about anything that they're saying, but continue to confidently say it anyway. So I'm looking forward to the rest of it. The glossary alone was just wonderful. I can't wait to hear why we read.
Yeah, he's got some thoughts on why we read, what we get out.
Does he also have why we write, or is it just why we read?
It's just why we read. It's just why we read. Because you need to understand the input before you can understand the art of writing.
Okay, right, yeah. So
unfortunately, the egg metaphor is there's less eggs. So
okay.
I'm not going to say there's no eggs throughout the rest of the book. The food metaphors do come back. He varies it up a little bit. We do get more steak talk.
Okay, so it's not just eggs, but eggs will be coming back. But it's sort of more culinary metaphor. You know, maybe he is just really into
eggs.
Eggs, yeah. Maybe that's his whole thing.
I'm reminded of something, right? That Bob Chipman said on one of his reviews of all. Before he made a food metaphor in one, and he said it was a hacky thing to do, and that's movie Bob Chipman saying that. So
so he knows what a hacky thing to do is.
Yeah, and well, that's all we need to say really about Smudboy's egg metaphor. I do want, I'm sure none of your viewers are this kind of person, but like, don't send any hate towards Smudboy. If you have to send anything his way, just photos of eggs.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Quite funny.
Even if you just like make your own eggs, just like if you're making a full English breakfast, or if you just like make yourself an omelette, feel free to just share it with him. I don't think, like, we definitely don't want to harass or anything, because again, we don't think he's necessarily a bad person. He has some pretty bad and harmful opinions, but he's pretty harmless most of the time. He's just he's a silly boy. He's a silly boy. I think we're advocating for eggs over any kind of other action. Yeah, if you feel
compelled to interact with him, then just send him a photo of an egg. I wonder if he'll make the connection.
I very much doubt that he will. Well, to be fair, someone will. So, like, if he asks, someone might like send him a link to this, but I very much doubt it. I don't know if this will get any views, but who knows? I mean, they did find my video about Literature Devil when I had 500 subscribers, so it's very possible, I guess.
Yeah. Oh
my god! Imagine if they did a Smudcast about this.
Jesus, they'd have to stop it every. God, I mean, if they did, then my dreams would come true.
Your dreams would come true, but also it would have to be like 10 hours long, right? Because we've been going for ages. So, like...
Yeah. I mean, they do like to... it reminds me because when the Smudcast covered Patricia Taxon's video about objective media analysis, they did like a really long stream that went across 2 VODs, right?
Yeah.
And then Jack Saint and Patricia Taxon basically did the same to them. They did a really long stream where they kept pausing the Smudcast stream every few minutes.
Oh man, please don't say we're going to do that. I don't know if I
no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that because that is a madness. But
if they do it, I imagine you will watch it and tell me the highlights.
Oh god, yeah, I'd love it. Well, I would genuinely love it because I want Smud explain some of what he's written. I want him to explain himself, you know. Hopefully he'll see this and he can break down the eggs, the eggshell, the bowl.
He can actually explain what he means with some of the things we're confused by. That would actually be quite good.
Yeah, because I don't think we've been too nasty, have we? We've just kind of.
Oh, here's a question: if he sees it, would you have him on?
Absolutely.
Okay, fair enough.
Absolutely. If only because I want him to have to refer to me as Henry.
Yes.
Yeah, which it would be great. Yeah, I think. Well, look, if Smudboy's got a right to reply, deny him that. If he wants to come on the stream, he can come on the stream.
That would be amazing. Yeah.
I want him. Do you know what the ideal thing would sit in? Preface. Why do we read? And he could. So every time we stop, we can ask him directly.
Oh my god! Yes. Oh, that would be so good if we could actually ask him why we read.
This is the reason YouTube was invented. This kind of thing.
Exactly. I mean, most of the time you don't get to ask like your favorite authors like what they meant in certain situations. But like we could, if we had him on, we could actually just ask specifically like, "What the fuck did you mean when you said this utter madness?"
I think we'd have. The thing is, I don't think we could go straight. Why do we read? We'd have to go back to the glossary and ask him to clear up some of the points that he was making.
And we'd have to ask what the fuck he does with eggs when he's cooking, because it doesn't. Yeah,
I need clarification. Right. I need clarification on the fatty bit of the egg that we're cooking the egg with.
Yes, that's number one priority, I think.
Also, why the water has to be brand named. Yeah, it's you know. I do want to just shout out Adored Pariah. Get him to extrapolate on this.
Yes, the puns. Yes, the puns.
Yeah, I'm living for the puns. I also want to thank the audience here for basically allowing me to do this to an extended period of time, and being enthusiastic about it. That's much appreciated. I hope you enjoy our journey into the rest of this book, I suppose. Yeah, thanks for letting me on, Matt, and thanks for the audience for being cool.
That's right. Yeah, no. Thanks for taking me on this journey. I've enjoyed it a lot. Yeah, I don't know when we'll next both be free, but yeah, absolutely, we should definitely do this another time. We'll go into why do we read. I'm excited for that. We're only 6% into the book apparently, so yeah, it's gonna be a fascinating ride. It's gonna be a marathon, it looks like.
If people are still into this by that point, this has become a semi-regular thing, right? We'll
yeah, for sure.
We'll not just cover Smud's ramblings, but the ramblings of other YouTube luminaries.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's fine. Yeah, I think it probably won't be like every week because obviously we both have lives, but like
I have like a job.
Well, yeah, so do I. But like
yeah. But
yeah, but it will be like every so often, and we'll sort of post about it and. Yeah, or we can talk about like whether or not we want to move it to somewhere else, or someone in chat said maybe we should go to Twitch, but I don't know. We'll keep it like this as it is for now, and yeah, I think that's that's it. That's the future. I think of this. What are we doing?
Oh, apparently my audio might be cutting out. I don't know.
Oh, that's probably something we can fix.
Yeah. Yeah, something might be up with the noise gate. Has it? Yeah, well, I mean, we can figure that out.
Yeah, I think it might just be that you might need to just turn the audio to like push to talk or turn it off or something.
Okay.
But I think that's a Discord problem rather than like a you problem.
Yeah, most issues we have with this will probably be a Discord problem.
Okay, that's fair enough. Okay, yeah. Well, we know what we're doing in future, I guess. And next time maybe we'll like come on a bit before we can like sort out any technical issues we have before we start.
Okay, yeah. Well, with that, let's end the stream and go back to our lives.
Okay, that sounds good to me, mate.
I do just want to say everyone's being very cute in the chat and saying thanks for streaming. Thanks for listening. I know there's probably a million better things you could be doing right now. I think we both appreciate it. And look, it's been a tough year for everyone. Stay safe out there. Trans rights are human rights. And we'll see you later, taters.
Okay, yeah.